All right. Well, let's jump in and start this thing off since we got.
Let's jump in
I
it.
know, right? Let's
I
just
jump in it.
let's.
Yeah,
Where
I love that.
the hell? Where'd that come from?
It's from the Young Turks. It was
Oh,
like Chank had this soundboard he would use, and he
yeah.
would play certain things, and that was one of the things. It was like this Russian dude would say, "I jump in it."
Oh, you love that shit. We love to jump into it. So yeah, this is what is this, episode 29. Um it's God, it's taken us
We're almost
so much.
30.
We're almost dirty 30.
I know, right? Dirty 30. Yes, I don't know why it's taken us so long. It's just like shit's been going on, man. I know, at least for me, I've been fucking busy.
We got
Yeah.
lives to lead.
I
Yeah,
know.
life comes at you fast.
I got stuff, Lori. Things.
Yeah, man, but so we saw that Justice League and we saw Thor Ragnarok. One of them we loved, and one of them we were just
Yeah,
So-
can you guess which one?
I know, right? And we want to talk about it because we've listened to everybody else. We've seen the weird reaction where it's like, gold-plated shit is better than just shit, or shit with corn in it is better than just regular shit, or peanuts or something. So the bar is so low that, they only had to do a tiny little bit to make it better. And it's kind of weird because these are two film franchises that people mostly didn't really go crazy about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people diss the shit out of Thor. I like the Thor movies. They have a clear-cut message. I will admit, though, that the villain in the second one was just... Yeah, Malekith and Curse. They were just fucking lame and underused.
Yeah.
But them as characters, they're cool characters. They just didn't do anything. They didn't break any new ground with them. So I definitely agree with people when they say that. But the films themselves, Thor himself is cool in all these movies. He acts like what Thor's supposed to act like, As far as Batman and Superman and them on DC's side, man, it's just like they're just, I don't know. I will say this is better than Suicide Squad. Justice League was better than Suicide Squad. And it was better than BVS in some ways. No, in some ways.
Back you through the computer.
Yeah, in some ways, because like BVS had like the aesthetics were all in place. So if you hate the story, you could still enjoy how things looked and some of how certain things happened. Whereas Justice League, I don't know why they chose Joss Whedon and not James McTeague to finish the film. For people who don't know, James McTeague directed V for Vendetta and Ninja Assassin. So he already has the aesthetic that Snyder has, that early 2000s, post Matrix, like slow down, show you with intense clarity what's actually going on so you can see every detail, and then speed up and you're just seeing how well choreographed shit is, that's his style. Like, I don't get why you chose Whedon, who really doesn't have, like, when it comes to his directorial style, he doesn't really have a style. He just gets the information in there. He's more of a writer. Because you can tell when you see, like, Batman, his fights were horrible. And, like, this would be the movie where Batman needs to be going all out because he's fighting fucking aliens and shit.
I would say the action overall was
lackluster,
very toned down.
Yeah,
compared to like Man of Steel and all the shit you saw Superman and the Kryptonians doing to each other.
Yep.
And even to some extent BVS. I mean, no, take that back.
It was more toned down than BVS. Like the Batman, the Martha, 50% more Marthas.
The fight between him and Superman, I thought.
Oh, that was terrible. Yeah,
but I did like some of the stuff I saw with Doomsday, like just him flexing, moving super fast, blasting through shit, and them pounding the shit out of each other. Because, the main complaint that I always heard from Man of Steel was that there was too much action, and I was like, how could you have too much action? That's like That's like a guy being surrounded by women and saying like, "Oh my God, these are too much women. I don't need all this. I don't want all this." Like, that's insane. That's
Yeah.
insane to me.
Yeah, it's like watching a
So like
group porno scene and saying it's too much sex. Like
yeah,
that's what
like
you're there for.
like
That's what,
these guys are supposed to be gods, essentially.
yeah,
Like they're the power they wield, and it's godlike. If you don't
yeah.
want to go all the way, they're little G's instead of the big G. So when you see them fight, it should look like nothing you've ever seen before. If you were sitting on the ground looking up, that was one of the things I thought they got off in BVS when you saw everything through Bruce Wayne's perspective as he's flying through the streets in that Jeep. Going faster than that Jeep could ever go in real life. But when you saw it, you saw like how just how epic it all looked,
and how insignificant all the people below were compared to what was going on.
So so in Man of Steel, that's why it made so much sense to me to see them doing what they were doing. Like when they had that shot of Superman punching Zod in the air and flying fast enough to catch up to him and hit him again and again, like. I was like, that's exactly what I've wanted to see in a superhero movie, period.
Yeah, I agree.
Like that kind of, taken to that kind of level.
Yep.
So, like, then you get Justice League where you kind of should have had something along those lines.
Well,
since you have
hit
a character
people
that
like
can
that.
take that shit.
Yeah, he didn't have, like, he should have had a knockdown, drag-out fight. Steppenwolf, and instead it was like Steppenwolf got punked.
Yeah, he did. Like Superman came in and was just throwing him around and was like, "You guys need help with that big spot," which I'm okay with.
Yeah.
You always said like Steppenwolf said like, "Oh, there's no Kryptonian to protect you because they know like a Kryptonian will fuck their shit up."
I know, right? Daddy's home. Daddy's gonna whoop everybody's ass. But wait, before we get into the fights, let's just talk about. I guess we'll start with Justice League because we have so much to say. We have way more to say. Because the way the movie hit us was a little different. Because all of us, I think we all agree that Justice League Unlimited is probably the best superhero anything that's been on television, probably even on screen in the last, I don't know how long. If you want to see like real fucking superheroics, like the way that characters should act and, you know, the right amount of gravitas for shit that happens, like that's the show. If you've never seen it, you need to watch it. Because there's a lot of people who argued with me a while back when I said this, talking about Earth's Mightiest Heroes was better.
Oh my God,
and I'm like, you guys need to just stop with your fanboy card and just watch the shit so you can tell. I watched Earth's Mightiest Heroes. They did some stuff good. They did a lot of stuff wrong, but it didn't compare to Justice League. Justice League was a more mature, more well-written show. It had better writers for the bulk of it. I mean, some of the same writers wrote for Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and it showed. Like, those episodes stood out. But overall, Justice League was consistently just a better product all the way to the end, even though the end was abrupt, which kind of sucks. Yeah. But there's all this stuff that even between Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, you have an outline for what this kind of film should have been. And it's as if the people working on this film, the people writing the film, had never even watched or read a Justice League comic. Like,
it feels like they read the New 52 and were like, yeah, we could do this.
Yeah, or at the last minute, they said, how about we turn this into the New 52 version? Because that's exactly what it felt like with the red sky and everything. And I don't know, the plot was dumb. The whole, like, you know, it's after Superman dies, a mother box activates, right? It's the Amazonian mother box activates, and Steppenwolf is like, I'm coming to get you, Mother Box, and I'm going to take down the planet too, because I failed the last time, but I won't fail now. And I'm like, wait, what is the logic? If the gods and the Amazons and the Atlanteans, they still exist, and they whooped your ass last time, what makes you think, like, I don't even understand why he brought up Kryptonians and all that shit when Krypton had nothing to do with his ass whooping the first time he came to Earth.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shit like that in this film, which is kind of par for the course because that's how BVS was. It was like all kinds of shit that happened just to happen, and it didn't make sense. But the overall plot was... Actually, I'll let one of you guys say what the plot was, so I'm not doing all the talking.
Well, I mean, you pretty much have already started it with mother boxes and Steppenwolf using the mother boxes in order to basically change the Earth It's kind of the plot of Man of Steel because he
Yeah,
needed to
terraforming
terraform the
Earth.
Earth to turn it into something similar to Apocalypse, so that Darkseid could take over, which
Exactly.
they only mentioned once and very briefly. Which you feel like something like that they should mention more because that's kind of
Dark's
the end
yeah,
game
he's the end game.
for these movies and
That
whatnot.
that seemed like it was the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Justice League, or you have Batman trying to pull everybody together in order to stop this major threat because they don't have Superman anymore because oops, he dead.
and it's weird too because so there's a lot of obvious hints that there was more to the plot, and a lot of shit got cut off based on all the stuff that was going on behind the scenes, and I doubt they'll be able to pull it all together for some kind of epic, super cut, whatever ultimate edition that they're gonna pull off on DVD. If they do, it's gonna be unfinished. A lot of the footage will be unfinished, but Batman's plot, his arc in the movie just seems really kind of really. Essentially, he could do the job from behind a computer, but instead he's out there doing it. And if you ever get a chance, you should watch Kevin Smith's review. He had people in the audience. It was like one of his live shows, and him and Mark Bernardin are in front of an audience. I can't remember what the venue was, but there were people in the audience that saw the rough cut of the original version before Snyder had to leave. And they talk about how Batman was suicidal because he felt like the only way, and he says it, the only way he could redeem himself for what he did fighting Superman under false pretenses was to kill himself, was to sacrifice himself, saving the world and helping bring Superman back. I think no, it wasn't bringing Superman back. It was just saving the world, essentially saving the world of stopping this invasion. So he was suicidal, which explains why he's not wearing much armor. Which explains why he's kamikaze-ing the fucking Batmobile into shit. You know what I mean? It explains why he has this big ass plane with nothing but armament on it that he's going to drop into the heart of the alien invasion,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you watch this movie, you feel like that's it. Because Batman doesn't really seem like, he's just Superman, we need Superman, essentially. And he keeps talking about all the good stuff Superman did. And I'm like, motherfucker, you said 1%. 1% chance he needs to be killed. So,
which is still an amazing, like you said, amazing change of pace of saying, hey, one person with power is well, again, like you said, there's a 1% chance, and we need to absolutely friggin' take this son of a bitch out. Okay, so now you want to group all these other people together with powers in hopes that they will help you do a thing that probably you and just Superman could have done. Well, so why are you cool with people with powers now, and then you weren't cool with it before? Plus, you want 4 people instead of 1, and
or
I guess he realized he made a mistake.
Or did he made a mistake? I know he made a mistake. Yes, he did.
That's all that matters.
But this is the other thing is I mean, by now most of you watching this, you've seen the film if you're gonna see it, But if you live in a world where Batman went to blows with Superman and Superman ends up dying when they all team up, why would you listen to Batman when he shows up on your doorstep saying, dude, I need your help? I'd be like, fuck you.
Yeah, you're responsible.
It's your fucking
weird
fault.
Because it's weird the change between the two movies. The first BVS painted Superman as a bad person, even though it contradicted itself.
Yeah, because he's doing nothing but good things, and everybody's hating him.
Yeah, and then the next movie, Justice League, comes out, and all of a sudden it's he was a beacon of hope, and now we're all sad he's gone. I don't know. It feels like there was to me, it feels like there was such a disconnect.
Yeah, because they try to have it to where, again, to show that the dichotomy of someone like a Superman. Oh, wow, how would the world receive Superman? How would 20th century receive Superman? Yes, there would be those who would, look at him with, suspicion and well, if he can do all of this, what happens if he goes bad? How do we know he's not really bad? Maybe he's and it would run through all of these scenarios.
Well, the fucked up thing was, didn't we have that with Zod? Why the fuck do we still need to go through this?
That's what I'm saying. Here's a guy who stopped a guy who said, I'm going to stop at nothing to kill this entire planet. Yeah. This other guy comes through and kills him because he doesn't want to see that happen. why, in your ever-loving mind, would you think this guy was against you?
But that's where that whole mentality falls apart, because that's when that should have been the moment when he's like, wow, this guy literally. It's not like he went and stopped a terrorist cell. It's not like he went and stopped a bomb from going off. Like no, Superman stood against an army of people just as strong as him.
Yeah.
And was willing to lay his life on the line to stop them from doing what he was doing.
Yeah,
if
like
that
walking weapons of destruction.
Over, if that doesn't make you believe that like this man will stand with us, then you're just racist.
Exactly.
At this point, it's like no, like you said, at that point, at the end of Man of Steel, technically that mentality should not hold.
Yeah.
There could still be some believable holdouts to that, like, well, we still can't trust him, but that at that point needs to be the fringe, of the discussion.
Exactly,
Breitbarts and Stormfronts of the world.
Yeah,
bingo. It's like they're the ones who need to still be worried about what he could do, because everyone else will go, look, those machines were tearing apart the entire planet. Like they were tearing apart the surface of the planet. Like they would have killed all of us. Superman,
or just the fact that, unlike. Because we talked about this the other day, and I'm sure we've talked about it before when we were just chatting about the movie. The whole way that people have skewed the events in the film towards, Batman is the victim and Superman is the dickhead, just like they did with Wolverine and Cyclops and Jean. Wolverine's the hero, and, Cyclops is the dick because he's standing up for his wife in his own relationship. You know what I mean?
How dare he defend his wife's honor?
How dare he stand up for something that he took vows saying he would do this? How dare he be a man of his fucking word? The same thing with Batman and Superman. Like everybody hates. It's like this inferiority complex that the fanboy populace has. You can't be good. You can't be really good at being a good guy, because it makes them feel insignificant. So the guy who's flawed and evil and kind of, he's supposed to be good, but he does bad things. But the greater good is what's, at heart, supposedly. He's cool, so we're going to root for him. Also, he has no powers, so whatever gymnastics they come up with to tell you that he can win, they take it. But, like, remember the scene where they said, where we were talking about with the Batmobile? People said that Superman kicked the fucking Batmobile. Clearly, Batman tried to hit him, and it didn't do anything. And he went sliding out of control.
It almost seemed like he came around the corner and was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And then Superman's just standing there, and he just hits Superman and goes careening off into a building.
And
and I felt like that was the whole point of that part of that end of that scene, because you see the Batmobile go through buildings, you see a boat collapse on top of it, and it's completely unstoppable. It's just like Speedy tank of just death and destruction.
Yep.
But it's absolutely nothing when it comes up to Superman, and that's why the shit was so funny.
Yep, I agree. And yet you have like not one, not two, not three, not 10, not 100. There's thousands, maybe millions of people who watch that movie and have said Superman kicked the fucking Batmobile, and I'm like, are you serious? So then when you watch,
never even seen him move.
Yeah, he didn't do anything. He literally looked at it.
He stared at it the whole time.
Like he looked at it the whole way. It was like boop. Then he just watched as it went into the wall or whatever, and he did nothing. He did rip the doors off, but at this point, I mean, he was kind of there to send a message.
I mean, the Batmobile was done after that.
Yeah, exactly. But like
before he even ripped the doors off, that machine was finished.
Yeah, exactly. But like this is the logic, and then you watch the rest of BVS, and literally that's the logic that the movie is resting on. Superman's doing nothing but helping people in montage after montage of him doing good stuff, and everyone's blaming him. Like, oh, he should have done this. Oh, he should have done this. I mean, he's got multiple facets to his personality. Maybe his powers don't work the same when he's stressed. You know what I mean? Like him not hearing the bomb. Maybe he was too focused on his own shit because the whole planet is saying that they hate him for doing nothing but good things. So, maybe this is that time where he was just like, fuck, I don't know if I should even do this. Crisis.
But the movie even explains that.
Yeah, exactly. And people diss the shit out of him. Now you watch Justice League and it's like, he was the greatest. He was so good. The world needs Clark and Superman and blah, blah. What the fuck are you talking about? What movie did you watch? What movie did you guys make? And so, like, the movie falls apart on that level. Not to mention all the dumb shit they did with Apocalypse and not really mentioning it, but mentioning it. And then with Steppenwolf and his reasoning for what he's doing, and the mother box being all overly complicated and shit. The mother box is like new Genesis iPhone. It's not some fucking, like, I mean, it's kind of a MacGuffin because it does a lot of different things, but it's not like they didn't chop someone up and put the pieces of that person inside of these damn computers. Everyone has one. So how does that work? There's not just
Hell, in the New 52, Cyborg was fused with the mother box.
That's what, all his tech came from that shit. It's like these folks didn't bother to do their research, because if they did, you have more interesting stories that you could draw from if they researched the actual books. I mean, because so much of that shit was just stupid. Steppenwolf's personality, he's supposed to be a hunter. He enjoys, like, the thrill of combat and the thrill of a worthy opponent. So, like, there should have been multiple fight scenes, like actual choreography fight scenes between him and the fucking Amazons, members of the League, whoever he goes up against, the fucking Atlanteans, whatever. There should have been scenes where we see him enjoy fighting these guys and him showing off what he can do. Not just him slamming the ground, smacking one guy, throwing someone else, and it's nothing. Like, he literally would be playing with these folks.
His axe was more interesting than the actual character.
Yeah, man, it was just like that. And then why was he CG? Like, I have no problem with CG stuff, but I didn't see a reason for it here. If Gandalf,
I had a problem with that too.
Yeah, I didn't understand what the purpose was. Like, Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, it's Ian McKellen. It's actually him, and they just use trick photography and several other techniques to make him appear larger and the hobbits appear shorter. You telling me that with all the money you fucking spent on Henry Cavill's fucking mustache, you couldn't spend...
That's where it all went.
Yeah, like, you couldn't spend some money or some time shooting the film so that you could have an actor that actually looks like a threat in this awesome suit of armor, because that armor was generic as fuck. There's fucking concept art done by people who don't work for Warner Brothers for, you know, possible looks for both him and Ares. And they could have used any of that shit, and instead they settled on the lamest. Like, that shit was just so lackluster, and that's like the theme of the whole film, lackluster. I don't know, they fucked up with that. Like, the whole thing about Apocalypse subjugating, when they invade, they don't just invade. It's like you said, they subjugate whatever the people of that planet, and literally force you to be like, I accept Darkseid is my Lord and Savior. I'm gonna do exactly what you want to do. You know,
they don't, like, you know, it's not like, oh, well, parademons are not zombies. Like, you're not killed in battle and then raised as a parademon. Like, no.
Well, in the New 52 they did that, but that wasn't the original parademon thing. The original thing was they made them.
I thought running the original would have been a lot more interesting than that, because I think that's too boring. It's like, oh, you just kill them and just bring them back, and now, like, they're evil. I'm like, no. Mm-hmm. If you willingly give yourself over to, like you said, to a corrupting, incredibly evil force, I think there's a better story there.
Yeah.
It's like opposite God.
It's true, though, and that's the point. I mean, you know, like, he wants to undo all living things. Like, that's his ultimate goal.
Yeah, the key is his key was the anti-life equation. Which the anti-life equation is literally being able to take away a living being's free will.
Yeah.
Without any no muss, no fuss.
Mm-hmm. And it would have been more interesting to explore that shit than what we got. Instead, we got a very generic, I'm gonna take over because it's what I do. And even in the full cut, or whatever, the original cut of the movie, they said that his mother is what made this version of the mother boxes. That's why he kept calling it Mother and not the mother box. And for whatever reason, I can't remember. I think he wanted to get her parts back. I think he tried once before to overthrow Darkseid, and so part of the punishment was that. And so he wants to put those things back together because he can get his revenge when he uses all of them. Which is more interesting than just, I just want to kill Earth. No, he came here to get the fucking mother boxes. Earth falling to the wayside is just a byproduct. Then I'd be like, okay, that's awesome, because then that explains why in the future you're gonna have to go to Apocalypse to stop this other dude from coming here.
And that adds to his character.
Yeah. But no, that's too much to ask. Then there were stupid things with characterization. What'd you guys think character-wise? Like, what'd you think?
I mean, I liked Arthur Curry. I don't mind Aqua Bro.
Yeah, me neither.
Because you know, whenever Marvel does Namor, he's going to be the stuck-up, full of himself, king of the seas or whatever. And that's all right. He can have that crown, but this is something I wasn't expecting that they would pull off with Aquaman, and I actually liked it.
He's like a regular dude. He's just like somebody you've seen at fucking OSU campus.
Yeah, because he's not king of the seas yet.
Yeah.
As far as what Jason Momoa has already told.
And he kind of like actively kind of shunned that responsibility too. I mean, he had his reasons, but he's like, hey, this place was in good hands, so I'm just going to be over here doing my thing.
Exactly. What about the Flash? I had so many problems with him. I did. I mean, he was funny, and I'll give him that. He was funny, and that was cool. But you already know,
and that's the thing I liked about him. But it's not Barry Allen. Like if that had been Wally West, I might have forgiven it a bit more.
Exactly. But my big problem is this, and maybe it's not a problem. I just don't know where this came from. He acted extremely autistic. And like if they're trying to say that's the character, I would have liked them to have set that up like, okay, this is the character. I mean, you don't need an announcement. Just have him do something that's really obvious. I mean, I've worked in mental health for years, so I'd notice it immediately. And there's other people who would notice it too. Some people have siblings, whatever. Do something that we would all be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like some aggressive, super intense, like OCD type shit. You know what I mean? Or, I don't know, something. But instead, he just acted just spastic and weird the whole movie.
Yeah, it's like they didn't know whether they wanted him to be autistic or just severe ADHD.
Yeah, it was just, and it got annoying. I mean, I like his dialogue. And of course, Ezra Miller's not a bad actor. But it's just that's never been traits or characteristics of the Flash. So why, especially
I think his acting is what saved that.
It was believable because of that. But his, especially Barry Allen. Barry Allen was the adult on the Justice League. Like everybody else, you got a millionaire playboy dressing up in what he calls a bat costume. You got a fucking, Amazon princess. You got a Boy Scout. You got fucking space cop. You got a fucking dude,
loose cannon, almost space cop.
Yeah, exactly. You got a fucking, the king of Atlantis, and then you have this adult. He's a fucking cop, like a regular forensic scientist, policeman, who loves his wife and does his job so that he can go home to his wife at the end of the day. He's like the adult, and somehow we get this. Like I don't understand why did they fuck with the characterization of Barry Allen? Like that's always been, he's the straight man.
Everybody that feels like a corporate move.
Yeah,
like they knew they needed to throw in some comedy, and they decided to go with that, with Barry Allen instead of the other characters. Which is why they should have just made him Wally West.
Exactly. It's because it's the same job, and he's related to him, so you got all that history. You could actually have Jay Garrick and Barry Allen show up at some point, because at some point, depending on how you play your timelines, Barry will be around, because he comes back from all that crazy shit with Crisis on Infinite Earths. But, that shit didn't even happen in this universe.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to acknowledge
they're trying to do Flashpoint now.
Yeah, it's just so...
it just shows how directionless, and there's just a lack of vision. Every movie feels like a reaction to the last one, as far as like BVS and Justice League, and maybe even the next one, as far as how they do the story and how it's all crafted. Whereas like you have Marvel, who they have a team of people who have a game plan as far as how the plot's going to go and how it's going to have its own story, but yet fit into the grand plot of this whole arc that they're trying to tell. And with Justice League, you don't have that.
Well, with everything that DC's been doing, everything like seems so fluid ever since, you know, the Nolan stuff ended. Because the original plan for Man of Steel was supposed to be was supposed to be a trilogy of what Man of Steel, and then I don't know, Man of Tomorrow, Last Son of Krypton, I think in that order.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden they realize after they make Man of Steel that now they want to do an extended universe. So now we get Batman v Superman. And then people
and the backlash from Man of Steel, which was once again their reaction.
Yeah,
they could have just taken Man of Steel or the next Superman movie, made it better, marketed it as a much better film to get people to want to go see it again, and then from there build your universe. But they saw dollar signs and they wanted to ape what Marvel's doing.
No, they saw the bandwagon and they fucking jumped on, fell off, hung on. They're falling off and they're hanging on to it.
Jumped on, got their ankle caught, fell off, and then just got dragged.
It's like, God damn, like you could have done so much better. I don't know. What about
even Suicide Squad? You try to have that be your Guardians of the Galaxy, your funny little corner. I'm like, you realize how much establishment of the film universe Disney and Marvel did before they did the funny corner of the universe?
Exactly.
You're doing this in your third movie
with characters that play parts, huge parts, in the other two movies that you made.
It's literally Suicide Squad is a thing you do 8 movies down the line when you've already had Captain Boomerang, Harley Quinn, Croc, Deadshot get caught once or twice by these heroes and stories, and then all of a sudden oh hey, like I said, but then you fucking do what's name in reverse. Like with Suicide Squad, you do the Avengers in reverse.
Yep.
Well, not in reverse, but they're bad guys, not good guys. So you see Waller going around collecting notes on these people, and you don't know who they are. Don't do it as post-credit stingers. Actually fit that shit in the movies.
Or you could have done. They could have done if they had done 8 movies. I know somehow we're fixing Suicide Squad now, but if they had done, I mean, it needs it. If they had done 8 movies and they did a post-credit stinger, maybe they did 2 in each film, and one of them was Waller getting information on a villain from each of these superheroes' film. You know what I mean? Their rogues galleries, like the film ended up being. That would actually work. It's kind of why I don't like that they're not utilizing the TV universe, the CW stuff, because if you did that, you could easily in a film you could make some kind of retcon or some kind of twist to say Amanda Waller's not dead. You know what I mean? You could do some kind of twist to be like, now this person works for this. Like, give us Cadmus. And then be like, she's been underground, way underground, hiding and collecting information on all these people, watching all the heroes. Yeah, super black site type shit. And this is what she's doing, and this is the purpose.
And have Lex involved in that too somehow, like he's one of the big donors or something like that. So then maybe there's some tension between Waller and Luthor at some point, just to establish that Luthor is really evil.
Yeah.
And so it sets them apart. They're both bad, but you see they're actually working toward different ends
of the same.
But again,
because Luthor's ultimate goal is going to be Superman. He's really trying to undo him.
But even the reason why I threw that out was just to show that again, just how easily we transitioned off of freaking Justice League. I'm like, dude, there's no. I have a feeling there's no actual lack of there's a lack of commitment. There's no real driving force. There's no vision. There's no
No, the driving force is money,
of course.
But that's fine. But if you were actually getting it, if you came up with a plan as to how to actually acquire said money instead of step 1 make money, step 2 step 1 make money, step 2 step 3 profit. I'm like, no, you need to figure out something you don't even need to build a universe. The Nolan trilogy worked and it was just Batman movies.
Yeah.
That's it. Nothing else existed. You could have did the same thing with Superman. You could have, and then occasionally maybe just throw out something like a special Justice League, you do with the animated stuff. You don't need to do an interconnected universe. If you could, it would have been nice, but you don't have to.
Yep.
So instead, we get Justice League, which again, for the most part, was inoffensive.
Yeah, it was meh.
literally, yeah, I walked out. I'm like, well, that was okay. Like literally, like as another famous reviewer would say, I barely remember it in T minus 1 day.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
Like, and that's where it was. It's like I watch it and I'm like, wow, that was like there was literally nothing. Only like Steppenwolf was the biggest thing that stuck out. You're right. I don't like the characterization of the Flash either because I definitely got that feeling. I'm like, it's on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Like somewhere, but you're not going to actually say he is. You're just going to have him like engage in behaviors that lead me to believe that he is.
Yeah, because it didn't help. It didn't help. It didn't like. I don't know.
Well, their goal was to make him. It was for him to be that character that we would relate to. He was exactly. He was in a sense the Spider-Man of that team because he's never fought before, and I like that. I did like that line where he was like, "I just push people. Like I've never been engaged in anything of that caliber." And he's supposed to be the fanboy as well because I mean, he had that scene in the Batcave where he's like zooming around the Batcave, and he actually names it the Batcave. And he's sitting in the Batmobile, and he's like, "Oh my god, this is awesome!" And you're like, and it's funny because he pulls off the vibe that maybe one of us would have if we were actually in that same position.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason why it works. But when you look at it like not as a critic, but as somebody who's like we've seen a shit ton of movies, like, and we don't just watch them for the sake of watching them. Like we're looking to see how these things are done. And that shit, as much as I liked it, it feels like we need this here because this is going to resonate with fans. We need this here because this is a reference to something, and so the fanboys are going to be like, "Oh, that's awesome," and it just feels like they were playing it safe.
It was a checklist. It wasn't something that like rose organically. Like you said, again, it's where the vision is. Like where all this like the motivating factors like were. It's like this was like a very corporatized movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like you need to have this, this, and this. Honestly, I'm surprised this didn't. Obviously, this mirrored a lot of like New 52 stuff, but I'm surprised it didn't literally mirror like a particular event or like a big trade from the New 52 because that seems to be all they've done so far.
Well, like I would act if they would have done New 52 and actually made it work because everybody knows that shit didn't work in the comics. I would forgive it because Marvel took stuff. They took elements from the 616 universe. They took elements from the Ultimate universe, and ultimately, no pun intended, they made it work because they took the right stuff from each and blended it together and updated some things and made changes here and there and they ultimately made something that made enough sense from a cinematic standpoint. Not so much if you wanted to pick it apart from a comic book standpoint, obviously you could, but from a cinematic standpoint, it for the most part it all worked. Whereas like I don't know what the fuck they were doing on DC side, because they could have because the first several issues of Justice League in the New 52 was them fighting Darkseid. So I can kind of see where the movie verse is trying to go with that. But it's like they just took it and just, I don't know, it's like they wanted to do that because Marvel's doing Thanos. So they're like, we need to do Darkseid because that's the big bad in the DC universe. But then they're like, I don't know how we do this. So they're like kind of stumbling in the dark with it. Is what it all feels like.
It seems like because even if the flow of it is okay, they dispatch Steppenwolf in this movie, I feel rather unceremoniously, and I think we all do. And now you're going to transition from that to the Legion of Doom. I'm like,
not even continuing with any of the other characters that are on Apocalypse, like Granny Goodness or whatever her name is. I think that's her name.
Yes.
Calabac. And Granny Goodness is like her three henchmen that were all like pretty fucking thorough. Or you could introduce Mr. Miracle and Big Barda. There's so much so much you could do with that it doesn't seem they're gonna maybe not go in that direction. I mean even Avengers is gonna introduce the
it's I know you mean the Black Order or whatever they're called.
With Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight, Black Dwarf, and Ebony Maw. I was surprised because I didn't know if they were gonna do it or not. But then when I saw like the two little clips they showed, like where they show Proxima Midnight throw her spear and Cap catches it, and then they show the quick part of Corvus Glaive about to carve the Mind Stone out of Vision's head. You know, all that shit. I was like, oh my god, they're actually doing it because I didn't know they'd already revealed like how those characters are gonna look. Because I was like, I'm not gonna really try and look at all that shit because I know I already want to see this film. So I just want to walk in with fresh eyes when I saw that, I was like, yeah, this is awesome. Like they know what the fuck they're doing, and I don't know what the fuck. Legion of Doom should have came before Darkseid if they were really trying to do this properly. Because you has to have an escalation. Like that's why, like as much as I love the Blade series, like having Blade fight a blood god in the first movie and then having him fight Dracula,
it descended
backwards.
It like, descended every single movie. It's like you go from like blood god to technology to whatever genetically enhanced to fucking Dracula.
Yeah.
But this could make sense.
And they still did it better.
Yeah, no.
Despite
this could make sense in a way if they have so you have so obviously you're dealing with Lex somehow would be the first official movie of this. So then that triggers this connection to Steppenwolf and Apocalypse and Darkseid. And now when they deal with that, if it's something that the Legion of Doom or maybe just Lex is like working toward to actually communicate with Darkseid or reach out to Apocalypse or something, then I guess technically you could have that movie next.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a lot. And again, the how Justice League plays with time, because like I said, the whole thing with Victor Stone saying that like, well, the Star Labs mother box triggered the night Superman died. And I'm like, wait, so it didn't do what it didn't do what it did to you. The Superman died. It just started going berserk the night Superman died, because I'm not following that. Because he said it. He didn't say it like he was there. He said it like he read it.
Yeah.
Like in a report somewhere. Because it couldn't be that, because, again, Wonder Woman's watching that shit the night Superman died. So, unless that was a live feed, like, there was no way those two things happened at the same time. So, apparently, one mother box went crazy, gave Cyborg his powers, or his new body, whatever, and then it sat dormant for however long, and then it just went crazy again the night Superman died, because everything happens.
Yeah, because technically he watched all that video. That video footage was recorded at an undisclosed date. They don't tell you when, but it had to have been a while ago, before the events that are going on in BVS, because it's on file somewhere. Yeah, it's just really, really inconsistent and just odd. And I guess like when we would see these things, but I mean, obviously the general public isn't. They're just there to have a good time. But I'm sure there's plot issues and weird holes in the Marvel movies, but they don't seem as egregious as that. You know, because I mean, a lot of people brought up in Ragnarok why the Hulk is able to, why now he can talk, when as before he was just kind of like Hulk smash, and he was very
like guttural, just
very primitive. Yeah, but they even took a little bit, and it's almost like if you weren't listening, you missed it. And they even kind of explained that in Ragnarok. So, I was okay with that, because if you read the comics, he's bounced back and forth between being smart Hulk, being medium Hulk, and just being plain primitive Rage Hulk. So I didn't mind it as much. I could see if other people who weren't familiar with the character have issues, but yeah, it was cool with me, because I always figured they were going to go in that direction anyway.
What'd I miss? I'm sorry.
We were just talking about the inconsistencies between the Justice League and BVS movies.
Yeah.
And how like there are inconsistencies in the Marvel movies, but they're not as egregious, and the plot holes aren't as huge as they are in in the two DC movies.
Yeah,
Oh, you mean like Blade not knowing what EDTA was, even though it's what helped him kill Deacon Frost?
No, that's huge.
Yeah,
but I'm talking about just the MCU.
Yeah.
You know, and how they've woven together their whole, you know, story arc.
Yeah.
But like you said, even because it is kind of amazing, like because even though like Batman was determined to like bring like all this group together, he was also determined to freaking kill himself once it came down to the actual like fight. This is where the last mother box is. We need to get the Steppenwolf, and I'm like, it would be nice if they had not cut out the part where he just
lost
kind of reconciled that with himself. Maybe have like a heart to heart with Alfred. That's what. If this was a cartoon, I wouldn't have so many issues with the pacing.
Well, no, because if it was a cartoon, they would have done everything we said they should have done. Especially if it was part of Justice League Unlimited. Not these days with like Bruce Timm, I don't know, because he's on a sex kick where everything has to be super hypersexual and stuff, so he misses the important stuff. But
I finally finished Batman and Harley Quinn, and wow,
it was not. It was. I do not regret watching it. Let's put it that way. I'm like, hey, that was the thing. Like even, but it's lower than this as far as like like definitely lower than Justice League as far as overall quality. I'm like, that was weird and yeah.
It was on a different. It was not the stuff is supposed to mature, and it felt like it regressed. It didn't mature.
It felt like fan fiction.
Yeah. It was very uneven, for lack of a better
word. Like somebody had their genitalia, whether they be man or woman, in their hands while they were writing that.
Yeah,
this is so good. This is
I know. Our Harley Quinn is so hot. Oh my god! And you're just like, really? Like, I don't know. That kind of stuff doesn't, for me, it doesn't work. Maybe there's obviously a percentage out there of people, a large percentage of people who this is kind of what they expect and it works for them. But no, I need logic, and they're missing the logic.
What did you get a kick out of the Aquaman sitting on the lasso scene? Because I kind of saw it, but I only saw I'm like, wait a minute, what? Oh shit, yeah, the lasso.
Yeah,
and that works. Like
it works.
I feel like that was Whedon. Like you can kind of tell which parts of the movie were Whedon and which parts were Snyder.
The humanizing parts were Whedon, and the rest were Terrio and whoever else. I think Goyer actually did have something to do with the script. You can kind of tell, but what do you guys think of Gal Gadot? And it is Gadot. That's how she says her own name.
Yes, not Godot. Good.
I didn't have a problem with her. I mean, it felt like perfect. She was stepping back into familiar shoes. After coming off the Wonder Woman movie.
She's perfect. Like I remember, it's so funny going from you need to eat, creatine, brick, mortar, and chicken,
chicken
to like, and be doing push-ups for days, to like, wow, she fits. I get it. She's like the George Perez Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
With the Justice League Unlimited attitude. Because she's like all slender and tall and she's athletic looking. She's not like, she doesn't look like the other Amazons. You know what I mean? The other Amazons had to work for that strength.
She also doesn't look like she did in Fast 5.
Exactly. She's healthy.
Yeah.
She's healthy.
She was model thin in that.
Yeah. She's healthy in this, which is the way she should be.
Healthy gal.
That's a healthy gal. So I dig that. I dig it.
She was definitely again. Hell, I was about to say she was a strength. No, she's not only a strength. She was arguably the strongest part of the movie.
Yeah. She was.
I was impressed with her establishing shot scene foiling the suicide bomb attempt.
Yeah,
because that I was like, wow, this is the kind of Snyder I like to see when she was moving fast enough to block the bullets and stop the bomb from blowing up everybody.
And she didn't
and
just
it
like...
was so imaginative the way it was shot and the way the CG was utilized. And then you don't see that level again.
Yeah, in the whole film. Yep. And that's what I'm talking about when I was saying like someone like James McTeague, he would have kept that kind of shit going. Like Batman would have had a scene where he didn't look like an old man in a Batman costume. He would have had a scene where this motherfucker's ninjaing around. Like in The Dark Knight Returns in the animation. In the animation, they showed that like this shit's painful because he's jumping back into it after not doing it for over 10 years. So, and he's aged 10 years, obviously, you know? But like then once the persona takes over, which is something that the movies seem to ignore, except for Keaton, the movies tend to ignore the fact that like the Batman persona is like it's like a separate personality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's not like that all day long. It's sitting in his mind waiting to get out, and as soon as he puts the suit on, it's like there's that switch. And in the Dark Knight Returns, you saw that when the switch happened, he still was struggling, and he was like, your body's weak, but I'll take care of that shit. Like, I'll get you back in shape so that we could do what we're supposed to be doing. And that's what I wanted to see in this. Like, Batman was just so lame in this movie. I like that he was getting hit and he was getting hurt because the villains were so much more powerful. But, like, he didn't bring his A game at all.
No. There was that, like, paint by numbers sidekick. And I'll never forget it
that
because
took like
it was just
five.
like,
He took five steps.
He
took 5 steps to throw one sidekick. What? How do you perform a sidekick? It's one step. You make sure you step past your foot, and then it's done.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. Like he was thinking about it the whole time.
Yeah, I was like, "What the fuck is this?" All the swinging, and he kept swinging on stuff and kicking with both feet, like Batgirl in the old, Yvonne Craig Batgirl back in the 77 or 66 Batman. Like, what the fuck?
And they keep putting guns in his hands.
They need to stop.
Like he has a belt full of gadgets. Explosive batarangs, nth metal. And I know they don't have to go nth metal, but, he has, knuckle dusters that pack a charge. They could at least do that.
He already called,
he's a whiz with tech.
Yes, we saw him catching one of these, the parademons. Like, he couldn't catch enough to, like, pull a sample off of him or
to
something.
study him.
Yeah, it just... like, develop something that could have killed him and then carry that with him.
Exactly. Yeah, my biggest complaint in BVS was like when Batman, like, and you see it in the Justice League cartoons, when he fights somebody or when he's in a battle with the rest of the team, he's usually running interference and flash and shock and awe basically, while to let create openings for the big heavy hitters to go in there and do their thing, because physically he can't match that. So it makes more sense for him to play that role. And you don't ever see that in these movies, which would actually make him look more badass, because because these guys can't touch him. And he's still, one-upping them in other ways because he's smart. He's using his head, whereas the other characters can just use their brawn, and you just don't see that shit at all.
Because they have a margin for error, and he doesn't.
Yeah, they just throw a gun in his hands, and all of a sudden he's the Punisher in the Batman costume.
Like you said, that's an absolute waste of his talents. Well, this Batman's already not a detective, so
yeah, true.
I mean, so that's all he is tech, basically. He's not a master fighter. He's not a master detective. He's just money.
He's rich.
I'm like, yeah, exactly. Literally, that line is kind of dumb, but I'm like, no, that, as far as I know, the people that make this movie, that is Batman's only superpower.
Yeah.
He's rich.
It's funny because they use that same line in Kick-Ass too. It's like, this is my superpower. I'm rich. He just started throwing money around. What's his name? The motherfucker. One thing though, I hate about. Well, I don't know. I don't want to devil's advocate about Steppenwolf, because a lot of people have complained about how he's a useless villain, and I agree. But I want to bring up the fact that, like, if you look at One Punch Man, and all the villains in that up until the Garo arc are kind of one note useless.
Yeah. But their story, they're one note in their approach, but their story is interesting. Their story is funny. Yeah.
It's not so much about like what they're there to do, because each one is just there to take over. Yeah. But it's how they do it. It's the after effects that affect Saitama, and you see like his main antagonist isn't the villains. It's life. It's the superhero association and that life, and him trying to achieve his goals within that community are the things that he can't just punch into submission, and that's why it works. Exactly. So, like, if they did something not similar to like the story of Saitama and One Punch Man, but they did something to where, okay, this guy's one note, he's just there for the heroes to come together and beat up on. If they had expanded on their
that's
whole
what I
coming
was talking
together
about
and fighting,
earlier.
it would work so much better.
That's what the original plot would have done that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Where you wouldn't have had to worry about like him sucking and being so one note. You have all these reasons for why he does what he's doing, and that's why I think he fails. What'd you guys think about Cyborg? Because I heard a lot of people say that he was boring and blah blah blah,
and I'm like, and it's like, and you people are so fucking stupid. Okay, this guy almost died.
Yeah.
And now he's back alive, but he's not anything as to what he was before.
Exactly.
And you expect him to just be like, okay, cool. Like the guy's almost all mechanical. He can't live a normal life anymore, and he's feeling really shitty. Like, how long do you expect him to feel before he comes out of that? And it's like, oh, I need to be a hero now. Like he's gonna be a downer most of that movie until,
and he wasn't even
he wasn't even
a downer.
And since his body gets Wi-Fi, and since he friggin' hears since he just like is receptive to like all streams of data, that's a lot to deal with too.
Yeah.
All of a sudden waking up one day and realizing you're fucking psychic.
Yeah, you can hear everything.
Yeah, and dealing with whatever he's starting to discover, like, oh, I can do this, I can do that. This is all like overwhelming. Yeah, like you said, it just, I don't know, man. What are people doing when they're watching this shit?
Yeah. Or who are these folks? What do they watch normally that makes them come to these films with that kind of criticism? I think he was perfect.
CW.
And then, no, even on the CW though, they go across.
I know. I'm just sometimes the CW shit, like I feel like people watch the romance and the drama and all that shit is drawn out.
Yeah, it is.
You have it, but it's a little bit, it's condensed, but it's still the same idea. Like he's been going through this. You get the idea he's been going through this for a while. They're just not spelling it all out for you and beating you over the head with it like they do in the CW. Will they get together? Won't they get together? Oh, they get together, but then something happens and then they have a falling out, but then they realize, that isn't that big of a deal, and their love is that much stronger, and it just goes on and on and on and on. It's just like, fuck or get out of it.
Yeah.
and then one of them dies.
Or they have to go back into the Speed Force. Yeah. No, but like I feel with him, right? Like you could tell that there was more to his story, and there was in the full cut. Supposedly, the scene in the trailer where they show him at his last football game. Supposedly his mom showed up, but his dad didn't because he's working on some shit at Star Labs, probably the mother box. And so he's pissed about it, and he's arguing with his mom as they drive home, and he gets in a wreck and killed. The mom dies, and he ends up fucked up like that. All during the beginnings of this invasion, Yeah. And so he's still depressed. Well, number one, he survived. So you have survivor's guilt. Number two, he's in the state that he was in, and he's like literally a chunk of a man. You know what I mean? And then his dad does what he does to bring him back to life, to keep him from just dying straight up. And now he has to get used to that on top of the survivor's guilt, on top of the issues with his father. And he still wasn't like as dour as Batman has been in most of the 10 movies that we've had of Batman. Like, so if you're watching a Nolan trilogy, you want to kill yourself because Batman is just like, I can't do anything. Everything sucks. The world is so dark. Oh my God. And like, it's like the action starts taking a back seat to this melodrama. The melodrama just goes on and on forever, like you said. And then it forces you to look at what's happening, at least for me. Because it seems like the audience doesn't do that. Like Batman flying out into the ocean, the coast of Gotham with a fucking nuke. And we're supposed to believe that the fallout didn't do shit to Gotham. Yeah. He saved Gotham.
Absolutely not.
But
he flew far enough away.
And they believe, and the fans believe that he would survive. If anyone could survive this Batman. So what did he actually do to survive that? You know what I mean? Like, there's gullibility, there's good writing, and then there's gullibility, and it's like literally Nolan's stories a lot of times, especially the Dark Knight Rises in general, it's relying on how gullible the audience is. I mean, he kind of worked towards that because he set up all this stuff with 3
I'd
movies.
say even the Dark Knight has a bunch of gullible shit.
Oh yeah. Like, why the fuck are they? Why is Batman responsible for shit we saw the Joker do?
Yeah.
Like, everybody saw it. Some of the shit was on the news in the movie. So why the fuck are we gonna blame it all on Batman? What? Are you stupid? Like,
because he can take it. Yeah. Because he's the hero that Gotham deserves, not the hero Gotham needs. Man, fuck that pretentious shit.
Yeah, it was stupid.
Yeah,
and all these
exactly what that shit is.
And people believed it.
Somebody in the comments explain to me why Batman had to take the blame.
Yeah, it didn't make sense.
Nobody knew that Batman was even there.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody even knew Harvey Dent was there. You could have blamed the whole thing on the Joker because everyone knew he had henchmen.
Yep.
That shit makes me so mad. And you got people saying, well, I know why. And I'm like, well, why? And then they never explain.
Yep.
All of a sudden, they never come back to comment.
Well, actually.
You see, what had happened was... but, you know, like I said, gullibility, man. It's like a lot of gullibility. And then here you have a story where even when you cut out the stuff, because they could later on explain that to you. But just imagine that you almost die in some kind of accident, and then you're brought back to life, and your body is part alien tech. So you don't even understand what's going on, even once you're interfaced with the shit. You're still trying to figure out what
it's
the
like
fuck.
A whole new, it's like puberty all over again.
Yeah, you're like, what the fuck?
Body's going through changes.
What's going on with my damn body? Like, you don't know. So I don't know. All that being said, I think homeboy Ray Fisher did a good job. I liked how he wasn't hood. He wasn't like he wasn't any stereotypical black guy thing. He was just a dude, and I like that. It's the same reason why I like how they did Aquaman, because like my younger brother hates Aquaman. He calls him the underwater hillbilly or something. And I'm like, I get it. He seems like he was a biker, that type, before learning about this Atlantis shit. But yeah, doesn't it? I know, my man. Yeah. Doesn't it give him a little bit more of an edge though, when you think about the type of guy? Like, I know tons of those kinds of dudes, and it's like a lot of them are, been in the military. A lot of them, they're tough people. So like, if that's his background, right, and they're making him, they're keeping him Polynesian, having the Polynesian background and all. Doesn't it kind of work to make him a different kind of Aquaman than what you've been seeing all these years? Like, what would your characterization of Aquaman be otherwise?
I think it actually would help.
It helps
in the future movie when they explain how he ends up as king, because they're gonna have to do the whole we need to go to war with the land dwellers and all that. But now you have a guy who has been on both sides,
exactly,
and will know how to negotiate and how to deal with the animosity that's gonna eventually go on between the two opposing factions, and be able to diffuse it or whatever.
Exactly.
If they go that route, because who the fuck knows now with how Warner Brothers and DC's handling this
think
shit.
Everything that, because the other films don't seem to have Warner Brothers breathing down their necks the way that the mainline ones, like Batman, Superman, and Justice League, you could tell the same bunch of fucks fucked it up for everybody.
Yeah.
But with Wonder Woman, they didn't even think the shit was going to be a success. So they just were like, yeah, Patty, do whatever the fuck you want to do. You're probably not going to make it anyway. It's going to fail because you're a woman. That's literally, from the emails and all that shit, that's literally what they're saying. Yeah, you're going to fail. Fuck what you think.
See a movie with a female lead.
Yeah, no one wants that shit. Even if she's fucking gorgeous and she looks like the character come to life, no one wants to see it. Even if the Amazons are just fucking amazing women just looking at them. Forget the athleticism you see them, show off on the camera. Just looking at them, you're like, holy this is better than what I was reading. You know what I mean? They look better than what I was reading. Because in the comics, it's like softcore porn. Like, they're just fucking like half naked chicks.
clad, sexy armor.
Oh, island full of women. Oh my God.
and they
How do I
don't
get there?
they don't I know, right? They don't look like warriors. They just look like fine. They look like Barbies. But then here you have like these girls look like warriors. They're fine too, but they look like warriors. Some of them are fine because there was that a couple that were just like whoa, oh, oh God.
Hey man, somebody would love that too.
No, I mean it's not for me, but yeah, someone will love it. You're right. You're right. Nah, but I still dug it. I dug that whole thing, and I think like, I mean, it just worked. But like you can clearly tell though that they didn't have, and I wonder if James Wan is having the same situation where they're like, it's fucking Aquaman. Nobody's gonna really go see this, so we just let him do what he does. If it wins, it wins. If it fails, then whatever the fuck, we don't care. I bet he'll have a better chance, and the movie will. I mean, it could still fail. I don't have very high hopes for any of these films anymore. I told you guys that way before Justice League even came out. I was like, if Justice League sucks, I'm kind of done with this shit. I'll watch it through alternative means. And I promise I'm not paying for any of these DC films. I'm going to figure out another way to watch this shit. Or I just won't. You know, with net neutrality, it might be kind of difficult.
Like, doesn't Warner Brothers just consider that too? It's like eventually, like you're going to like. There's only so much goodwill you're going to have.
Yeah.
Until the next Batman movie comes out, and then then you start all over again.
Exactly.
Or if the Batman movie sucks,
it's like if you release a bad Batman movie, like you may lose everything.
Well, they're on their way. I mean, shit. How do you fail?
It'll be a while before you build back up.
How do you make a bad Batman film? Like when you think about how easy it is. Like at this point, this is post, Batman Forever and post Batman and Robin. So you know everything that you should never put on film. You know it already. Like Batman should never be having relations in the whole bat suit. Batman should never be, you know what I mean? Like he can't be quipping the whole movie. If he's gonna say a joke, it should be like the old, like the old action heroes would do, where it's like there's something in the middle of the film that's memorable, and then there's the one at the end of the film that's memorable, and that's it. Because Batman shouldn't even be talking that much. You know what I mean?
Like, how do they make a bad Batman movie? Simple. They announce that they're going to do freaking Batman Beyond. That's how you make a bad Batman movie.
Because Batman Beyond easily, if they're going to make Batman Beyond, they have so much leeway.
Oh, no. Good property, I don't believe that they'll do it. They'll do it.
Oh,
well.
yeah. But that's the same problem with anything they make these days. Most of the superhero movies they make, with the exception of Wonder Woman, it's like they choose not to adapt the material or adopt the source material. They always want to do their version. That's why I have that stance, and I'm going to stick to it forever. You can't adopt something until you've perfected it the first time. Like, if you don't even know what the perfect version of this is, like, who is this character? You haven't shown us that yet. Like, even 89. I love 89, but that wasn't the Batman that was in the comics at the time. That's an amalgamation of a couple different versions of Batman. And
well, that's even the issue with trying to do BVS, trying to literally adapt The Dark Knight Returns. I'm like, you're trying to establish a brand new Batman and a brand new Superman, but you're basing it on the story, which is a deconstruction.
Exactly.
Like, that's not a good idea. First of all, you're following up a Superman movie, which was not all that popular. Exactly. You're trying to establish a brand new Batman. Like, using a deconstruction as the emphasis and the impetus for the beginning of your film universe. Not a good idea. Yep. All that together was no. Like you were starting behind the 8 ball at that point.
Exactly. Yeah, they screwed themselves over. It was one of those things where either you adapt the fucking source material outright, or you just take elements, small elements, maybe design elements, and leave the story alone, because the story kind of doesn't work. Even in today's world, you have to fix up a lot of things. You have to redo a lot of things to make it fit. And if you're not Frank Miller, like, you don't know how all that shit's supposed to fit. You know what I mean? Frank Miller, he doesn't even know anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say, shit. I don't think he knows anymore.
Yeah, that man's lost his shit. But, But, like, so the action was lackluster. I'm trying to think, did we forget someone? We said, we did. We went through everybody. Batman was lackluster. Superman. So Henry Cavill's lip, right?
Yeah.
How? Because I mean, he did the job. He finally was Superman, like for real, for real. So We don't even need to talk so much about his performance, because that's one thing. When I left the movie, if anything stood out amongst all of this, above everything, is when Superman came back, he was Superman. How he came back was fucking stupid. But
Yeah.
the best,
which once again, it made the end of BVS
irrelevant.
It made it seem like it was going to be closer to the comics because he's technically still alive.
Yeah.
And they just maybe they were like, oh, he's going to come back. Let's just speed up the process. I don't know. It just that whole plot of
lack of logic
was stupid.
Just lack of logic. Immense lack of logic. It would have been easier to tell people he's a fucking alien. When they're close to death or they severely injured, their body goes into like a comatose kind of state. He's not dead. Simple. You know what I mean? They have the ship too. The Kryptonian. Don't they still have one of? Yeah, their ship was sitting down there. They could have brought him.
New York.
They could have
Metropolis.
In Metropolis. They could have brought him there, and then the ship itself could have been like, sensing life signs, and you'd be like, "What the fuck? He's not
Let's hit
dead."
him with straight up solar rays.
Exactly. It's like so simple, and they over fucking complicated. Like they've yet to really. Matter of fact, I can't even say that. They already showed you that he took a nuclear blast at point blank range and died, and then the sun brought him right back. Filled up his muscles and everything, like almost instantaneously. It was like a couple seconds.
And in the absence of oxygen,
exactly.
As well, all he had was yellow sun, and he came back from what was pretty much death.
Exactly, and now you're going to overcomplicate his death and his rebirth. But anyway, fuck that. It was stupid. It just adds to how dumb the plot was and how little. You'd think in 75 plus years that some of this shit just would be knowledge, common knowledge. If you're going to write a comic book, a movie based on these properties, you would know this shit. You look
especially since stuff like that would actually. It would benefit you from using it because the fans are going to see it. I mean, in cases like that, forget about the audience, the general audience, because they're kind of there and they're kind of along for the ride anyway. Because, whatever you present to them, they're just going to kind of take it at face value for the most part, unless it's so beyond stupid that even their suspension of disbelief can't be reasoned with. But, that stuff would have worked. Doing that and referencing the comics would have helped immensely. And once again, like you said, it would have helped the plot because it would have made more sense.
Yeah, because like I've heard and I watched so many like podcasts. Just when I was working my other job at night, I would have on like different podcasts, and like the ones where they take apart after the review or during the review, they really take apart the movie and they come up with all these theories and all this bullshit. But no one really like paid attention to the fact that there are plot points that exist in the comics that would explain scenes in the film. But because the film doesn't use the logic that was established in the comics, you have a hole. And it's like, if we already know a way to explain this, like that would work even if you adopted this into the film, why not just do that instead of trying to come up with your own explanation for a pre-existing thing, to the point where people who don't read comics have theories on a phenomenon that is explained in the fucking comics. Like, what's the point of that? Like, I get it. You want any press is good press, blah, 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 yakety schmackety. But, like, why not just utilize the lore, all the history that exists? I don't understand why is this company so against doing that? Even like you look at Marvel, and like on a base level, they do that with almost every film. All the Captain America films, they pulled all kinds of shit out of his history. Same thing with some of the Spider-Man films pull out stuff from Spider-Man's history, and they do it and they utilize it in good ways. Some of them, it's not like beat you over the head. It's more like subtle things in the background, like the clock in Amazing Spider-Man 2. But like, it's all right there. I don't understand why they're so against using it. But I don't know. All in all, though, with Superman, when he showed up, he was very much Superman. He had between him and the Flash was the best scene in the whole fucking film.
Yeah,
easily. The way the Flash is like running around trying to do stuff super fast, and Superman's just watching him like, motherfucker, I see you. And the Flash being all goofy, he's looking at him like, wait, why are you looking at me? Like, how are you able to do that? The Superman was like, fuck this shit, I'm about to get your ass. And you're looking at it like, whoa.
I was thinking, like, wait, he's got super speed. Oh dear.
Yeah, I know. Like, you're gonna fucking get it. Like, this shit was awesome. I was like, I've wanted to see stuff, not necessarily Superman fighting the Flash, but the way that you convey that power. You know what I'm saying? Like, you do it the way... This is a world after the Matrix, right? So the Matrix showed you all these different superpowers in, like, beautiful cinematic fashion, and no superhero film has really utilized these effects. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then finally we get it where it's like everything else is slowed down to a crawl. It almost doesn't even look like it's moving. And then only two characters in that slow-mo sequence are able to move at, like, seemingly, you know, regular speed. And you get it. You know what I mean? Even the one did it. And you were like, holy shit, with super strength, super speed, even the resiliency, like taking attacks that, like, would kill regular people. Like, you got it. He had, like, superpowers 100%, and it made sense.
Well, he's U-Law, and he's nobody's bitch. You're his, so, you know, you gotta show that.
I know, right? I don't need to know you. You only need to know me. But, you know, that's an old movie, too, and that's one of the few that I can point out that utilized what you were taught by the Matrix. It's like one of the there's like a gang of shit that the Matrix did right, and there's a bunch that they did wrong because they fell way the fuck off at the end. But even in the last movie, there's a whole bunch of stuff that they were at the top of their game now because they had perfected these effects, and they showed the world, like, if you have these kinds of powers, here is one way that you could do it that the audience will get it, and it's not going to be confusing. And I feel like when the Flash was running around and everybody else is falling or jumping and they're stuck in the frame and they're barely moving and he's still running around interacting with shit, it made sense. Not like the bullshit they did with Quicksilver, where literally you froze the scene. The scene was animated on layers, so nothing was really moving that much, and essentially you just had him Looney Tunes his way through the scene. Like, his power, he's not even like that was literally like time manipulation, you know? And the man's not that fast. You know, he's like a super tight, ultra tight, high-end sports car. You know, he's like really fucking fast, you know, on his feet. Some versions he pushes himself and he gets to a ridiculous speed. I think there was even a version that was introduced to the Terrigen Mists and he got stupid fast, you know? But, like, that's not what we got in this film. This is young Quicksilver. How is he that fast as a kid? And people were like, "He was fucking awesome, man." I'm like, yeah, I get it. I understand.
He was so fast that you kind of didn't
need anybody else.
Rest of the team. You could have just had him wrap up the whole film.
Exactly.
They came up with convenient ways to take him out because, for plot's sake.
He could have slit Magneto's throat. The whole movie would have been done. Like, Magneto would be watching.
I know, you got to take the car back home, so you go on and do that.
He'd be watching. Magneto would be watching the knife go into his throat, like, just like, wait, what is going on right now? I'm dying. What is going on? I've seen
Master of Magnetism, and you managed to get stabbed to death.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
How does that work?
Yeah, with a fucking
let us not go down that rabbit hole. With
seeing how they did it though. In Justice League, I was like, that's dope. That's the way it should have always been. It was clean, it was clear, it was crisp. The movement made sense. I mean, I didn't like how Ezra Miller ran. He ran in such a goofy...
the end where he's like half skipping and running?
Yeah, I was like, what is going on? Like, watch fucking Usain Bolt.
Even if you're playing like, it's not like he's a trained athlete or something. I'm like, you couldn't run like that at normal speed.
Yeah, exactly.
Friggin' tripping over your own feet. Like, no, you got to be a little smooth.
Yeah, they should have just referenced fucking, Bolt, Usain Bolt, and call it a day, and just had him run like a track star and be done with it. That's the visual shorthand for the Flash. Fucking runner. It's simple. But
having photobombing people's pictures.
Yeah, man, that should have been dope. Would have been dope. Like, you remember how in Justice League Unlimited there was the episode with I forgot what it was called. It was the one where they were opening the Flash Museum, and in the very beginning of it, I think it was that one. In the very beginning of it, he's like running. No. There was a Gorilla Grodd episode, I think, and so in the beginning of it, he's like running through the city, and he's saying, hi so and so, hi this person, I just finished, painting your house. Hey, I'm gonna go pick up this thing for you, and he's helping all these people, and then there's like the robbery that happens.
So he's running on the highway.
He's running on the highway, and there's a part where like the fucking floor, the road gets blown out from under him, and he's in slow motion. He's like running on all the individual pieces of the the debris from the explosion, so that he can get across the gap. Like, there's all this cool shit that you see in the cartoons that at this point we can do it, and you can make it look better than the cartoon because you have directors that have a higher budget, number one, and they have a better grasp. I don't even say better. They just have more tools at their disposal to give you a better looking end product. And no, they're not utilizing it. I don't understand why. Like, you couldn't look at that and be like, we need that in our movie. Or like when Superman super punched Darkseid in the face. Why haven't we gotten that yet in a movie? Could you imagine if like that was how he introduced himself in this? You guys need any help? And it's like bump, 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 boom, slow motion, and it's quiet because he hit him so fast and so hard, and then everything, the air ripples around. Man, people would have shat themselves in the fucking theater. And instead, he just flew in and just punched him like nothing. No style, no nothing. Just slap, lay down. It's done. You about to get your daddy's home. Belt came off.
Like you said, that was it. It's like there was no style. It's like everything was just like everything. It was a means to an end. It's like, all right, we need to do this. Okay, we need to establish this scene. Okay, this guy needs to say this, and this fight needs to happen.
It was like they just looked at the script and they translated exactly what was on the script and put it on the screen. There was no flair. There was no emotional content. Nothing to it to make it feel like this belongs to these characters. And that's what was lacking. When you watch the Avengers, and I hate to constantly compare Marvel and DC, but I mean, it's the closest thing we have. I mean, unless I just compare it to like Justice League Unlimited. But when you watch the Avengers, each individual group of characters in that film had their own way of dealing with shit. Tony is flying around dealing with shit, turning corners and shooting stuff out of the air. So you've got a different kind of dynamic between him and what he's fighting, and Jarvis. Then
using Jarvis, Jocasta, whoever to like kind of like, or Friday, I guess, to kind of like.
No, I'm talking about in the first one, in Avengers, the first Avengers.
Jarvis to help coordinate everybody else too.
Exactly.
He's like, he's getting assessments on the battlefield, and then Iron Man's relaying information to everyone else on the ground.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how he was talking to everyone else. He was letting them know when he figured something out. He let them know a little something. Like they couldn't dip around corners well. Then you watch when, Black Widow and Hawkeye are fighting. It's like the Bourne movies, except these cats are using specific weapons. I mean, she's using guns, but then when she ran out of ammunition, she's using their weapons against them. And Hawkeye the whole time is sniping folks from up on top of the fucking rooftop and shit. Yeah. But when they were on the ground together before Cap showed up, they were just going to work the best way they know how. Fucking, stabbing, shocking people, shooting folks. Like, it made sense. But it didn't look like Captain America fighting these guys. When Captain America's fighting these dudes, he's throwing his shield. He's doing all kinds of gymnastics and shit. He's like in there actually looking fucking cool when he's fighting, and he looks like a superhero because that's the character. Hulk is just fucking savage as fuck. Everything he's doing is just like he's throwing shit all over the place. It's like no type of restraint, So each person had a visual flair. That you get the character. You could see 5 seconds of them doing what they do, and you understand what their job is, and you know what kind of character they are. In Justice League, a punch is a punch, a kick is a kick. Batman threw a batarang. No style. You look at Injustice 2, motherfucker spins backwards and throws 2 batarangs forward, sometimes 3 or 4. Forward as he's spinning away. He uses his cape to mask the movement. When he throws the thing. Shouldn't that be how Batman does every fucking thing? He should be, like, deceptive as fuck. You shouldn't even, like, just visual shorthand. Like, this Batman should be more physically distinct than the other guys. Nolan's Batman hit people really hard. That's it. Keaton just was a jack of all trades and he didn't give a fuck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's it. Kilmer and them, they were doing too much in those suits. Fucking rolling around on the floor doing, like, ankle locks and shit. Like, Batman's gonna take you out in the fastest way possible. He's not gonna he's not gonna lay on top of you out there in the field, lay down on top of you and break your ankle. Like, come on, man. Like, even in Arkham City, you do, in Arkham Knight and stuff, he does a rolling ankle lock quick. It's like real quick, and you could use it to avoid something else, break the ankle, you know, and then continue. And that makes sense, you know? There was no flair to how anything was done except for Wonder Woman. And that's probably because her people choreographed her shit, you know? And that was in the beginning and part of the end, because they have to let you know this chick she's like, you know, ancient Greco-Roman everything, you know, like everything.
The greatest melee fighter ever.
Yeah. So like they have to show you, you know, the shield, the advance, the spin for the parry, and the, you know, the stab, and like they got to make sure those moves. Essentially, she has to fight like Sophitia from Soul Calibur, and it always has to look like that so that you visually get it. But everybody else, it was like nothing. Cyborg was cool though. He was just shooting stuff with his transforming hands and stuff, which was fine because that's what he does. You know, that felt logical. Aquaman, he was powerful because he was throwing blows at Steppenwolf, which was cool. But
yeah,
I know, my man. but yeah, he just didn't have, like, you know, Momoa can fight. And they didn't really make him do anything with the fucking Quindent. Like, there was one sequence, I think, where he spun the thing around his neck, like he always does. He'll spin, like, swords, or he'll spin, like, a staff or something around his neck, and then, you know, charge. He did that, but he stood still. I'm like, this dude can fight. Like, he's probably one of the better fighters in the group of people you have in this film. Why not utilize that and choreograph some shit where we get to see him actually fight? It's probably the one thing you could say that his character can already do well before becoming King of Atlantis. I mean, that's why he's fighting against all these aliens and shit. I don't know. It was so lackluster and so meh that I was just like, ugh. No. But now Thor was on a whole different level. The opening 5-10 minutes of that movie are worth the price of admission. Like, if you didn't like Thor beforehand, and then you see that opening 5 minutes, you'll understand why. He's always been my favorite Avenger. It's between him and Cap, but mostly Thor.
He's always been the most powerful one in the movie.
Exactly.
They just always nerfed him for the sake of the movies.
Well, no, so that they can make the Hulk look stronger, which is bullshit.
Or Tony be able to stand up on par with him.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here. Like, if he's not going to make a special suit, there's no way he can stand up to, you know, if Tony's not going to make a special suit specifically for fighting Thor, he doesn't have shit that can, you know, put him on
he's
Thor's
tap his armor with the hammer, and his armor's going to be in critical failure.
Yeah, exactly. But
it's okay. He's got a Thor Buster armor, so, you know, or whatever the hell he makes.
but
it works as effectively as the Hulk Buster armor.
I know, right?
Gets ripped out of.
but yeah, man, Thor Ragnarok was dope. It was like just the right amount of weird to make it feel authentic. It felt kind of like what we've been reading.
Yeah.
Like if you read Thor comics through the 70s and 80s and even the early 90s, like kind of sort of that's the vibe. I mean, granted, the comics were a little more serious, but the shit you were reading was just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, this is weird as fuck. Like, it was always kind of weird. Thor would always go on these quests to different places. Everything didn't revolve around Asgard. He would be out in the Nine Realms doing shit. And that's what they did here. And the fact that they even made fun of him being so powerful that it's like he needed something to bring him back down to, like, you know, reality or something. I don't know how else to describe it. It was like, he's so powerful that he kind of doesn't really fear shit. You know, he's never put in a compromised position in the other two movies. I mean, in the first one he was because he didn't have his powers. But in the second one, he was in control the whole movie. There really wasn't a moment when he, I mean, relationship-wise, he was doubting stuff. But I mean, him as a character, he was still on top of shit, you know?
Yeah.
In this, though, they put him in compromised positions from, you know, having his hair chopped off to, you know, being forced to fight the Hulk, and the Hulk acting like he didn't even want to, like, I guess not remembering that he knew him. Just, I don't know, everything, it's just goofy, man. Him allowing himself to get captured so he can find out what to do to beat Surtur. I don't know, it was just a lot of funny shit, man. And the characters around him also made the movie. Like, they helped make the movie.
Yeah.
Everybody brought their A game, and it just, I don't know, it was dope.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting with just the scenes with him and Doctor Strange, because it's the straight man playing the straight man, but the second straight man's kind of out of his element,
Exactly.
and so it's still funny.
Yep.
Yeah, it just, I mean, I don't know. I mean, and that's attributed to Hemsworth's like comedic timing. Like, he's got really good timing.
Yeah, he does.
And you didn't really get to see it as much in the previous Thor movies, but like, I had watched the Ghostbusters movie, and he was one of the funniest things about that film. You know, even though that film wasn't the greatest, he stood out because of how effective he was at his comedy.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't get through that whole movie. I know I fast forwarded a lot.
Oh shit.
Yeah, if they had just, it would have been more stomachable if they had just made it Ghostbusters franchise.
Oh no, we're not gonna talk about Ghostbusters.
I know, but
but that ship, I'm not even going back down that shit again.
Yeah, because with Ragnarok, it was like, again, a definite change in tone away from like the high fantasy freaking like Lord of the Rings sort of like Shakespearean like tone that they tried to definitely establish with the first one. They still established, and they were still working in the second one. Now it was just like it was a lot lighter. It was a lot. I mean, like, again, I guess someone else said this too. I heard in a review. It's like space is, I guess, in Marvel movies where like goofy shit happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So so you have like you said, the fight with like Thor and Surtur, and like even that, like the first few minutes of that is like, oh wait.
I know, right?
Like space should be that area where anything could happen.
Exactly.
Because it's fucking space. Yeah, you don't know what's out there.
And like and I'm glad we still don't feel the need to like explain why there's human like life forms on planets, on places other than Earth. I'm really glad we don't get bogged down in that.
Exactly.
That minutia. Like, yes, there's people here. Just fucking roll with it.
Yeah.
I also dug how like some of the places there was like joke, like Sakaar was just a joke in itself. Like, it's the place where your socks disappear to in the fucking dryer and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like, you lose something under the couch and it falls into a portal and ends up there. Like, it's just fucking weird shit, and it worked. It didn't have. I mean, Jeff Goldblum. Like, what the fuck? That shit. He was hilarious, and he was so weird. Just weird enough that it wasn't annoying. And like,
I hope him and Del Toro actually interact at some point.
Oh, God,
yeah, I know, right?
To.
That'd be hilarious.
I mean, even if it was like a side movie, like the Contest of Champions or something,
that'd be fucking
I'd
dope.
be down to watch that.
Yeah, man, that'd be dope. That'd be dope.
Yes.
Fucking Benicio del Toro is one of our favorites. He said, "I will kill you." I love that dude, man. Oh my god, when he was all sweating in Snatch, it was like Viva, love. That shit was awesome, man. I love Benicio del Toro. He's fucking hilarious. And The Hunted, that movie's awesome. Yeah, man. I would love to see.
Yeah, guy's got range. He just gets underutilized.
Yeah,
like he has his movies where he gets to stand out, and actually you see how great of a performance he can deliver.
Exactly.
But they just don't use him as much as they should.
Yep, I agree. But yeah, Thor was dope.
So Goldblum just kind of showed up on set and did his thing.
He pretty much played himself in space. Like,
I was gonna say, yeah, literally. It's like, I wonder if like You did at least have to go through wardrobe, right? You didn't just like
I know, show up like that.
tell the studio you're gonna wear this, and like they just said like, okay, that works.
um, what like I don't know. The plot was dope. I like how the plot was one of those cyclical type deals where you know the you technically the beginning of the movie was a setup for the end of the movie,
Yeah.
like a direct setup. Even the dialogue, literally, Surtur explains the end of the movie at the very beginning of the movie because literally what he said is what happens because that's part of Ragnarok. You know, like that's what's going to happen. So like the fact that Thor goes on this journey ends up right back at Asgard only to watch the shit get destroyed, and it's supposed to happen because in this case it's kind of a good thing, kinda. It was different, you know, and the fact that it was told to you in a kind of lighthearted fashion, I didn't feel like it was depressing. I still felt like there was hope. Like they're not screwed. They're on this giant ship. They're going through space. They're gonna find some place to be. I mean, judging from the trailers to Infinity War, I don't think that's gonna happen. But you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
they make
but they could even
and
still write it. They could still even write it to where they get a hold of the Time Stone or the Life Stone or whatever, and they're able to restore Asgard or something.
yeah,
If that's the direction they want to go in,
yeah, I agree.
they could easily come back and fix. They could fix things.
Because even if they don't do it, I guarantee you they're going to mention like, hey, if we get this, we should be able to kind of like wipe some of this.
Yeah, because I mean, the Warriors 3 just got wiped the fuck out.
I know, but they were corny as hell anyway.
And as brief as they were in there, I did like them.
I like them as characters.
I mean,
but
I could
so
see why
corny.
they killed them off because you didn't really do anything with them.
Exactly. Yeah. They're like background players. But Hela, shit, Hela was dope. Like if I would do exactly what something similar to what Scourge did or Executioner did. If Hela came at me like, you look like a guy that can get shit done. So how about you come here? I'd be like, except my version of the movie would go differently. It would change the rating of the film. Like, but
she'd be wielding your sword.
I know. but she was dope. She seemed like she was having so much fun just being fucking unstoppable. Like, everybody's like, who the fuck is this chick? And she's like, man, you guys just really don't know who I am, huh? I guess I'm gonna have to show you. And she just
the fuck I am.
She just murked everybody. And it was dope because, I mean, she's supposed to be that powerful.
Yeah.
And I do like the fact that, like, her storyline is like a bunch of characters. It's not like traditional Hela's storyline. It's the one Odin's brother? What was that guy's name? You know what I'm talking about? Odin had a brother that was ridiculously powerful, and he got imprisoned because he wanted to take over he wanted to like overthrow Odin, and he was an executioner as well, just like she was. Then there was Bor from God Bomb or whatever, or you know what I'm talking about? The Thor story where there was this dude, him and his family were questioning the need for gods. It's the Jason Aaron, I think, Thor run. He had this character. He looked like a dragon person or something. He wore a black cloak, and he had his own hammer. He eventually ends up with his own type of hammer. And this dude they started calling him the God Butcher because he was going through killing off all the gods. And then he kidnapped Thor, or not kidnapped, but he straight up snatched up Thor from two different time periods, like young Thor, and I think like present day Thor. No. Present day Thor was the unworthy Thor, with the beard and shit. So it was someone either past and future Thor, and they all end up teaming up. They sacrificed themselves so that present day Thor would have a chance, and then present day Thor gets that dude's hammer. I think that particular story was called God Bomb. I'm doing a terrible job telling you the whole story, but there's elements of how, like the way she fights, how she makes swords, black swords that pop out of nowhere. Bor I think that's his name. He did the same thing. Wait, no, Bor is the name of Thor's grandfather. I can't remember what this dude's name is. I'm doing a bad job. I read it briefly because at the time I wasn't feeling all this stuff. Then I went back and I read it shortly before seeing, Ragnarok, and I was like, this is actually kind of dope. I like the ending with the whole, Thor going fucking, Super Saiyan or whatever you want to call it, because he had two hammers and he was like black clad, like he looked like Aku as a fucking like a Asgardian version of Aku. He was fucking like ridiculously powerful, and I was like, damn, it was about time. I miss these kind of stories with Thor. I have an old book where him and Hercules were training, but it was when the real Thor was lost and Eric Masterson was running around as Thor. Remember that?
Thunderstrike?
No, it's before Thunderstrike. When Thor's, you know how the old Thor used to have this weird piece that sat up above his forehead?
Yeah.
And on Jane Foster Thor, that piece is over her eyes. Well,
yeah.
he used to have like the full beard and mustache, and he had the piece over his eyes. And then the rest of his costume was exactly like the regular Thor.
I never knew that. I never really read Thor. I didn't know that was a different Thor.
Yeah, it was a different character, and Hercules was always like, dude, you're not as good as you need to be, so I'm going to train you. And he was always by force, so like randomly he would just show up and just attack him, and the two of them would just start fighting, and it'd be like, what the fuck? And it'd be like a big fight where, Hercules is not trying to stop because he's trying to push him, and dude is like, this motherfucker's trying to kill me, and he's like using all his strength to fight back. And then something else would happen. And in this book, the Enchantress got a hold of Quasar, and she had Quasar show up, fake ass Green Lantern, show up and fight both of them. Well, he was there to fight Thor, but he was fighting both of them, and he was fucking powerful too. So the fights, the action, and everything was pretty dope. And it's a real simple story, But yeah, there were throwbacks to that. Like Eric Masterson, just like Donald Blake, he used to carry a stick, a walking stick, and he would tap the stick on the floor, and then lightning would strike it, and he'd turn into Thor. You remember he was walking around with the umbrella?
Umbrella, yeah.
And he did the same thing. He hit the stick on the ground, and he turned into, like, his costume changed. That was a nod back to that. There was all kinds of shit that they took from all these different pieces of Thor's history, and it was pretty dope. I'm like, I like this stuff. This is the reason why I've always wanted to see these things on film. And it's weird because a lot of people complain that there's too many jokes. And I'm like, but Marvel movies aren't depressing. Marvel Netflix is depressing.
And they still balance the tone of the movie to work that stuff in.
Exactly.
I mean, we've seen movies where, like some of Sammo Hung's movies where, like, it'll be goofy funny and then something super serious happens and it totally upsets the tone and the feel of the movie. And then you've seen ones where he actually blends the two together very effectively and you end up having a very fun and enjoyable experience. I think everybody talks about Marvel having a formula and whatnot, but they've honed it and it works and they still do things to try and keep it fresh and interesting. So I don't know, people just complaining. To me, they're complaining for the sake of complaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, there's nothing about this that I object to, so that's what I object to.
Exactly.
No.
Mm-hmm. And I liked Valkyrie, man. Yeah. I didn't even think I was gonna like her that much.
Me neither.
The film, but
pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's her background feels familiar. I'm not disenfranchised, but like, kind of feeling sorry for myself and blah blah blah. But the actor, she just carries it so well, and you end up really liking her. And she's kind of like in some ways she's kind of like a female Thor because she loves to fight.
Yep.
I wanted to be a Valkyrie too.
And it was just fun to watch her. I would be down to see more of her in another movie.
Yep, I agree.
Like Thor trying to identify with, like, I wanted to be a Valkyrie, but then I realized that they were all women.
Yeah. Yeah. It was dope. Like, everything was dope, man. It just was weird that someone had to be against the film. Like, I don't understand why you can't just enjoy the things. Like, why can't it be that this thing is different from the other things, but it's still good or bad in its own right?
Yeah, like there's this how do I put it? It's this
It's confirmation
it's a
bias.
saying that I picked up. It's like just because you like something, it doesn't mean it's impervious to criticism. Just as like you don't have to hate on something because it has problems.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, it's
Like,
it,
yeah,
I won't say it's a balance, but there's
No, it's a
it's like
balance.
when we were
yeah,
yeah it's like when people it's like when we were talking with ODC about the Star Wars prequels and how you know we acknowledge like he likes them and they're full of problems and he acknowledges that maybe it took a little bit of coaxing but he did see after in the end that like yeah it's okay and I think we all kind of came to an agreement that
Yeah,
that's cool you like it just we all have to be aware that it's not all perfect just like with these Marvel movies
exactly.
there's more to like than there is to dislike and just because there are things that you dislike in them doesn't mean it sucks as a whole.
Exactly. Exactly. I think we had that discussion too with Civil War. Because
Yeah,
he hated it because he said it was supposed to be a Cap movie and it felt like it was more of an Avengers movie. And I'm like, that was one act of the film. The whole rest of the movie was Cap running after Bucky. Like,
yeah. I was
that's
gonna say.
most of the movie. But yeah, the fights in Thor were dope. The story was pretty straightforward. It wasn't like it was some deep plot. It was just giving you more insight into the world of Thor. You understand that like his father has tons of secrets and it's part of him being king for so long. You know what I mean? Or
yeah,
like how Thor still had more metamorphosis to go through to eventually become the next king of Asgard. The conversations with him and Loki, their situation had to grow because Loki's all cool now, but he's about to fuck shit up because that's his character.
he's that scorpion that just got to sting you.
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
gonna say because that's the mentality. It's like yeah, like he loves you like a brother, but you also know Loki's nature.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So all of those things can exist at the same time. Again, like the little snippet they give you of like Loki in the Infinity War trailer. Now, is there some sort of plan like for him like turning over the Tesseract?
Probably
Probably
not.
not. He's just doing it because it's gonna
It's
fuck
just
some shit
it's
up.
it's ODD. That's what it is.
Exactly.
That's what he
Like
has. He has a huge.
it's not he's not doing it because he doesn't like you. He's doing it because he just likes to do some.
wait,
I
obsessive
just like
destructive
to.
disorder. Is
No,
that
no,
what
no. It's oppositional defiant disorder.
uh,
He just he just has to do that shit. Like he can't not do it. That's just who he
Why
is.
why would you do it? I don't
I don't
know.
know. I
I
just
just
like
like
doing
doing
shit
stuff
like
like
I like
that.
to do bad things.
I know it's
I
fun to
smoke
do
with
with
cigarettes.
cigarettes. It's fun to do hood rat stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. So in this movie, like they spent what like 99% of the movie being cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do wish, and it's not like a big gripe or it's not like a big criticism. It's just something that would have been kind of cool to see. I really liked that scene where they were in the elevator and they had that little heart to heart moment. I kind of
Yeah.
wish there was one or two more of that thrown in there somewhere.
Why would you need
Oh,
more of it?
I don't know. I mean, not necessarily that explanation, but just them being like brothers. I
Oh, I
guess I
got
don't
you.
know.
Yeah, I got
yeah,
you.
because you kind of got that before when I mean
In the
obviously
opening.
like like Loki had his plan for taking over friggin' like the Grandmaster toppling Grandmaster, but it didn't coincide with Thor's plan, seeing as how Thor was strapped to a chair.
I know. Please, sir, don't cut my hair.
Yeah.
That was so goddamn funny.
That was so funny. He
He's
said,
like,
"I am
I
the
am
son
the
of
god of thunder.
you
You
will."
will. Oh my god!
Please, sir,
Please don't.
don't cut my hair, sir.
Like, like, oh my god! Like that thing just turned into like a nightmare machine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
and then you see it when he comes out, and you can see like parts where he kind of screwed up and cut a little bit too much.
Yeah.
He's got like lines going in like odd directions that
Yeah.
shouldn't be there.
Like
That's a
Exo
big
Squad. He
old
had an Exo Squad cut. His shit was
Yeah.
all
thing.
fucked up.
He did the best he could.
I know,
he
right?
probably figured, well, this guy's not going to be standing for 10 seconds anyway.
I know. It's
Yeah.
Killer. He gave him a Killer Miller. Remember? No, it's funny. Like for me, some of the stuff that made me laugh the most were the conversations with Korg. That motherfucker
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
funny, man. He was like, I had a sword. He was like, I had a hammer, and it, it was a wonderful weapon, and I'd spin it, and it would pull me off the air. And he was like, oh God, it pulled you off, and like no one laughed. Like, do you understand that outside of the U.S., pulling you off is jerking you off? Like, the shit's funny that the Rock guy was the most human guy in the movie.
Yeah,
and the way.
So you and your hammer, you were. No.
I know you were close. It's just like the way that they spoke was so normal. Like, and he just described shit to you like, oh yeah, that's just so and so. I mean, he's always like this. He just, he just loves fighting. The bug dude, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
like
Meek,
yeah. It was dope. Just the way, I don't know, man. It felt like they saw Guardians of the Galaxy, and then they were like, you know what? Thor fits into the Cosmic Odyssey shit.
Yeah.
So why don't we just utilize that and push
That's the term
Thor?
I was looking for. Yeah, Cosmic Odyssey.
That was the name of their book. That was one of their books with all the crazy space shit back in the day. And it works. I wish they would do a Silver Surfer movie like this. Do Silver Surfer meets Doctor Who, and that's it. There was a series that was like that, where he had a companion and everything, where him and some chick were going through space, righting wrongs, finding shit and whatever, experiencing.
Didn't they kind of do that a little bit in the short-lived animated series?
Nah.
He had some chick he saved.
He did save a chick. He did save her. But that series was trying to do so many other things. It was weird. And that's probably why
I love it just because of the dialogue.
Yeah, it was super epic.
Dude, it was so adult.
Yeah, it was super epic, but it was weird looking and like, yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was like they were trying to animate Kirby.
Yeah, and that part was good. The designs, the character designs, the models, they looked good. It's the level of mixing CG with the 2D stuff, and then the music didn't fit. I mean, the intro was so epic, but like some of the music in the show was terrible, and like, yeah, it was too much, and it didn't feel like they knew right away what they wanted to do with the series. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I wish there was at least one season of that show instead of like, what was it, like 6 episodes?
Yeah, 4 or 6 episodes. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love that shit, man. Like, take the Doctor Who approach, give him a person that he has to save that's in a unique situation, kind of like how Ultraman bonds with a human being to save their life. And that's why you always have a human that turns into Ultraman on Earth. Do something like that with, what's his name? He saves someone. They now have the power cosmic or some aspect of it, and then have him and the two of them be connected, and he protects that person or something, and then brings them with him. Like, I gotta fix you so that you don't have these issues. And we go through space, and we, on your way to your final destination, whatever that might be, where you get fixed. I don't know. I like the space stuff. The big, I'm waiting for DC to get their shit together so we can get a Fourth World set of films, because the whole new Genesis and Apocalypse shit is fucking dope. There's so many characters and so many.
Because I was like, would they even go in that direction?
They need to.
Because they can't get it right now.
And it's fucked up because it's like. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was saying is that they're still trying to just not do exactly what Marvel's doing. So again, like you said, they're establishing Thanos. They've already been in space a few times. I mean, DC eventually has to. They have to do space. Like, you can't.
Yeah, I mean they're going. I mean, that's good. And the Green Lantern movie will be the intro for that.
Yeah.
And they better. Fuck. I hope they do it right this time. Jeez.
Yeah.
First off, you're gonna try to do Hal Jordan again, because heaven forbid you use like the lantern that a lot of people actually know who followed the stuff on TV.
Exactly.
Well, he's too dark, and we can't have that.
That's why we gave you That's why we gave you Cyborg. Aren't you happy? Like,
I know, right? Yeah,
Thanks.
it would be dope. It would be so dope for them to do it. And it's weird because it's like, when you look at Marvel and DC side by side, they literally have a counter for everything that Marvel is throwing out, and they're not using it. I mean, like,
I would rather see Guy Gardner and Hal Jordan in a buddy cop movie.
No, I'd rather see Guy Gardner.
I mean, Jon Stewart and Guy Gardner.
Yeah, or Guy Gardner and fucking
Kyle
Rayner. And if you're gonna just dodge, what's his name, Jon Stewart. Like, I want Jon Stewart still. I want him in one of these films because he needs to be. But nah, man, there's not too much else to really say about Thor. It was great. It was fucking dope. I saw it 3 times.
All the casting was great, the story was great, the action was fun.
The action was imaginative. That's what was good about it. Like when Thor at the end, when they reprise the theme, and he's just slapping motherfuckers off the Rainbow Bridge, like I was like, it's like the final level in a really good video game. Like he was just uppercutting folks, and they go flying, and he's throwing people, and they pile on him, and then electricity or thunder and lightning goes everywhere, and they're flying everywhere, and it's just like, yeah, you done fucked up. Like Thor has
you probably got to see Scourge use destroy.
Yeah,
Desert Troy.
Yeah,
yes, Troy.
It was dope, and the fact that Carl Urban once again embodied the character so well. Like he looked just like him, except he wasn't like. I mean, granted, you could get any white guy with fairly sharp features and put that mustache and the tattoos on his head, and you kind of got the character. But he felt like what I've imagined he would sound like and how he would move. I don't know how to put it to words other than that. Like, it just felt like that was the character. That's how he's always been. I didn't know, though, that he wasn't full-on villain, because most of the time I saw him with the Masters of Evil.
Yeah, me too.
I never knew that there was like some point in time where he was redeemable. But
I thought they did that just for the movie, and even still, I was like, oh, this works. Like I don't. No, it's not something that stands out to the point where I hate it. It actually, I liked him.
I looked up because I afterwards I wanted to know more about his character, and that end sequence when he jumps off the plane, out the ship, and he's shooting down at them. There's a panel in a book where he goes through this arc where he kind of betrays his people, but he kind of feels bad about what he's doing the whole time, and then at the end he's like, I can't go through with it, and he turns around and he sacrifices himself fighting off the oncoming army. And
that's cool.
It's that same panel with the light, like the sunset in the background and the clouds and the army of dudes coming up towards the thing, whatever it is he was jumping off of, and he's just jumping down, blasting them with his machine guns. I was like, that's dope, man. It works perfectly for me. Everything worked. I don't know, like, people complaining is like something fundamentally wrong with your mind. If you go to superhero movies and you don't want to see weird and amazing and fucking out there shit, why are you here? Like, this is what they're made for. It's what they do.
Yeah.
Just rewatch the Nolan trilogy over and over again, and then convince yourself that the third movie doesn't have
weird and out there shit.
I'm like, it's just different stuff. Like, he waited till the third movie to be like, all right, fine. Now I'm just going to do some stuff that's just like implausible because I've built two other movies on things that are somewhat plausible.
Exactly.
Like, oh.
Like,
I don't get that either. I'm like, I want to see. First off, I'm going to the theater to see something. I want to see something amazing.
Yeah.
Like that I want to see on a large screen. It's in surround sound. I don't need that. There's a lot of other stuff that I can wait till it comes home to see.
Exactly.
Like action movies, things like these comic book movies. Like I want to see those on screen.
Well, do you remember? Did you guys ever see the Kevin Smith's review about The Dark Knight Rises? He was like, I didn't fucking get how Talia al Ghul waited so long to get her revenge on Bruce Wayne. He's like, she had the perfect opportunity, man. He's like, when they were freaking fucking in his house, she had his dick in her mouth. She could have just bit that shit off. It'd have been all over. I was cracking up. Like, dude, I mean, for real, that's kind of, that would have been so simple, and it'd have been hilarious. I mean, obviously, for the sake of the movie, it wouldn't have worked. But it's like, when you put them in that dumb of a position in this universe, because in this universe they had nothing. There's no prior dealings. There was no reason for them to that quickly. I mean, she's hot. That's it. And I don't even think Marion Cotillard or whatever looked that dope in that movie. She looked better in a lot of other movies, But like, she's hot, I get it. Bruce Wayne, at this point, hasn't really dicked down anyone else except for Rachel. And even Rachel, he was trying to, and it just wouldn't happen, So, like, why? Maybe that's why he was so quick to be. He's like, I just need my dick wet. Like, oh, God. And he just quickly was, like, ready to do it. But stupid shit like that, man. It's like that implausibility you were talking about, Prime. Like if you're gonna buy that shit, you can buy that in space, the fucking god of thunder, the Norse god of thunder, you know what I mean, could do whatever the fuck he's gonna do. You know, because they've already set the stage for you that this shit is possible. I don't know. It's
like exactly if you stuck with him this long.
Yeah.
I mean
he's in space.
There shouldn't really.
He's a gladiator on a weird garbage planet, fighting rock aliens and green skinned, giant whatever, and that's led by Benicio del Toro's brother in this universe. Like it's weird enough. Like Stan Lee had like buzzsaws for hands or some shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you can buy, there's so much other shit you would have to be like, I don't get how that's possible. Before you're gonna be like, how does Thor do A, B, C, and D? He's the fucking god of thunder. You kind of there's God in his description.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you kind of can't question so much about that guy.
So So again, knowing that he has that God, it's like right under his name. Yeah. It's like, so in any question, how can he? You should probably just stop.
Yeah. It's like, this is what you're in for. But I dug it. I dug it from beginning to end. Each time, it still was enjoyable. Just as enjoyable the second time, the third time. I'm definitely going to buy it. I got to go back and buy some of the other Marvel movies because I have.
Yeah, I still need to buy Doctor Strange and Ant-Man.
Yeah, Doctor Strange was awesome. I liked his little scene, even though I wish that they left in some of the goofy stuff that was in the trailer. I still dug the his interaction. In my mind, I imagined them doing more. Like I thought Doctor Strange would have been in a chunk of the film, but it's cool without him being in a chunk of the film, just being in one scene. That's dope. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah. I really liked the Hulk.
Yeah, he's like a big kid.
I've heard people, he's like a big kid, but I heard people say criticize like the CG for the Hulk, but I don't have.
People need to stop.
I don't know. Like, how do you? Okay, if you're gonna complain about CG, how do you suggest they do it better?
No, because this is the problem.
Some things you just can't do without it.
This is the problem, and I've learned this from having the discussion with people. People will say that they dislike the CG in a film, when in reality they mean they didn't like the look of a thing that was computer animated, like a style of a thing.
Or even some, because I get it, some things stand out more looking CG than others.
Yeah.
But then you miss all the other things that were CG that you didn't even catch your eye. Didn't even notice.
Because like there's this argument these days where people will say it needs to all be practical. So and so does practical. I remember someone argued with me about George Miller. If you watch the special features of Mad Max, Fury Road, like a big chunk of the film, mundane shit is CG.
Background, the desert itself,
like to make the desert look expansive.
So much of that was all enhanced by CG.
Exactly. So it's like people say the shit and don't understand that they're even like, I quote unquote reputable, media outlets. They have people reviewing films saying that shit, and it's like, no, it doesn't work like that. You need to know more. It's just like the people who bitch about, the director being terrible when the director didn't write the script, and you have plot issues. Like you have plot issues and you blame the director. Like, come on, how long are we gonna have to do this? Like, I hate playing parent, but like, read a fucking book and then look at the people who made the book. Like you can't blame the wrong person for the wrong thing. Like that doesn't make sense. And we have a whole culture of people who this is the way they review shit. And then like when I point this shit out, people get mad that I'm saying this as if I'm tooting my own horn, and I'm like I'm just trying to tell you the facts, factually speaking, because this is all I'm dealing with. Zack Snyder threw out ideas. He didn't write the script. He didn't write the script for any of those films. Just like the folks bitching about the feminist people or whoever bitching about the look of the Amazons in Justice League versus how they looked in Wonder Woman. They're fucking Amazons though. They're almost always like the real Amazons were fucking naked. Like
so, I didn't even notice a difference.
Well, like, in Wonder Woman they had more ornate costumes, but I mean you would kind of I want to believe that in a big chunk of it, and maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way. It's obviously it's two different aesthetics, because you had two different teams work on the films.
Yeah.
But one story takes place in the way past, like a whole different set of people, a whole different set of Amazons. I mean, that was before Diana. That might have even have been before Hippolyta. Hippolyta was probably young in that scene, wasn't she? In the flashback, I couldn't tell because there were a lot of muscular blondes wearing semi Wonder Woman.
I couldn't tell either.
But
I think she looked the same.
Yeah, that was way before Wonder Woman was born. So the fact that they look different, it's letting you know it's a different era. I do remember a film with Greeks that were male, and they were pretty much naked with capes. And I know that women didn't complain about those men being half naked in that. So why are we complaining? Like, you look at these chicks and they spent time building their bodies up to showcase what they can do. Now,
to showcase that they look like that warrior look.
And we're talking ancient Greece. We're talking about ancient fucking Greece, where, like, you know, based on statues and art from back in the day, cats walking around half naked with just a sheet over their part of their body. You know what I mean? Like, people, they were pretty proud of their bodies. So, like, I don't understand why they need to now be covered up, because these folks got a problem with it. It's like a lack of logic, and they blame Zack Snyder's sexist, blah blah blah. But then wouldn't he be sexist towards men as well if he's forcing them to be naked in 300? Is what I mean? Or do we blame Frank Miller since that was his vision? Like, people complaining for the wrong reasons at the wrong things. If you don't like the look of something, just say you don't like the look. Stop saying, I hate the CG. The CG was bad when it wasn't. I heard people say Cyborg CG was bad. How else would a human head on a robotic body look?
I know, I don't get it. And it didn't look like it was out of place.
Yeah,
it looked like it blended in with everything else. I mean, there were other parts of the film that you could have pointed out that looked out of place, like the cornfield scene, or the scene at the end of the movie in Not Chernobyl, where all the crystal shit is coming out of the ground and coming towards people and stuff. And, like, that stuff it didn't look as good or as refined as everything else that did match with the rest of the film.
Or just the fact that
nobody complained about the bat pod or whatever the fuck that machine was called.
The flying fox?
No, not even that. I'm talking about the night crawler.
Oh, the night crawler.
Nobody complained about that.
That shit was weak. It was just as bad as the current Bond films, how he always has a gadget that was created specifically for that movie. Like, like here's the fucking, defibrillator, because you're gonna need this later on in the movie. You know what I mean? Batman's
conveniently in the glove compartment.
Yeah, Batman's crawling around in the sewer, so you're gonna need a vehicle that can fit in the sewer and crawl around, because you're gonna need it to get out of the sewer. Get the fuck out of here! I hate that shit.
You're welcome.
Hate that shit. Yeah, people need to stop that shit. They really do. It's annoying. It's really annoying, and I'm tired of, like, I mean, I guess it's never going to end, because people are so prone to, fanboys and girls and stuff are so prone to the mob mentality and shit and the confirmation bias, and they want to fit in and sound like they know what they're talking about. So they're going to sit there and jump with whatever.
If they were going to criticize something about the Hulk, I was surprised nobody mentioned, like, his face, because, they changed the look of his face in that movie, which I'm fine with.
It looks good. It looked like Mark Ruffalo.
I thought it looked all right. It looked like a bit more than it had in previous films, where, like, you got that essence of Mark Ruffalo, but like,
it looked more like him the comic, as
like a Neanderthal Hulk.
Yeah. I'm surprised. Like, what was the deal with the fucking the Russian family? Like, the Justice League saved people.
Oh yeah.
And there was one family in the middle of that fucking place that nobody would actually live. It made it seem
like there was nobody else but them.
Yeah, like,
and then you find out, there's more people.
Like, hire some extras. What the fuck?
No, that's like work.
Apparently, I was like, ugh, fuck, man. And you didn't.
Work. That's extra money. I mean, no.
And we didn't have any problems like that in Thor. Everything fit. There were extras everywhere. Every place felt alive, and, like, people were, like, it was lived. Things were lived in. Like, even the big ass palace parts. It had people running around. Like the shit for me gave Star Wars a run for its money in like the world building aspect. Like you felt like it was a real place. Plus, you spent more time on Sakaar than you do on most planets in Star Wars in all the movies. So like, yeah, it was one of those things because I'm not a big Star Wars fan because I feel like it's overrated. Like people don't give Star Wars the kind of criticism that they give everything else because it's Star Wars. And I'm like, Star Wars was a B movie when it came out. It was an expensive looking B movie. And even for the time, it still looked like a B movie. It just, it took the world by storm. People started to like it and they put more money into it over time and it kind of cultivated and became a better, bigger thing. But there's movies that do it better, and people act like no one does it better, Like, you hear all the backlash that the new movie's getting because there's like a bunch of different plot twists that I guess the fans don't like because it kills their fucking dumbass, useless speculation.
Yeah, I mean, if you're stupid to go in the movie to think that Rey was going to turn to the dark side.
No. It's not. We don't even have to get into specifics. You're stupid to
well,
go
no, I'm
into
just
the
saying,
movie.
like with the trailer, because the trailer kind of hinted, like, what's going to happen?
But what I'm
and
saying
I'm like,
is,
you guys do remember the last trailer? They tried to make it seem like Finn was going to be the Jedi, and you could tell like that wasn't what they were going to go for. Even though in the back of my head, I was like, it'd be kind of cool if they did.
Yeah, but this is
I know they're not going to.
But like,
so it's like if you see these things, you got to be prepared to know that what you're seeing and what you're hyping yourself to be prepared for is not going to be what they're going to show you because they don't want to tell you what's going to happen.
Well, there's that too because it's a trailer. But then there's the whole concept of why the fuck would what you would like the movie to be about, be what the movie's about? You didn't make the fucking movie.
And because it doesn't meet those expectations, that doesn't mean it's bad movie.
Yeah, exactly. And because if it doesn't, which it probably won't, automatically it's a bad movie. There's a petition to remove this from the canon, this new film. I'm like, okay, can we stop with the fucking petitions every time you're not happy about something?
I know, petition about net neutrality, you dumb fuck.
That's what I'm saying. Like, shit that matters, folks don't really get up in arms about. Shit that really fucking matters. Can we petition to get Trump out of fucking office? Can we petition to not get bombed by, North Korea, please? Like, you know what I mean? Like, can we petition to have black folks stop getting shot in the streets? Like, can we petition to stop a lot of shit, like censorship and things like that? Like, why are we petitioning Star Wars? Don't watch the fucking movie. If it bothers you so much, then pretend like in your mind, in your collection, because you don't have to buy the movie when it comes out. Just erase it from your thoughts and just pretend it's not part of the canon for you.
Like you said,
write your own shitty ass fan fiction. That get rejected like the movie.
Yeah, because people believe that if something isn't good, then like it shouldn't exist.
Yeah,
or rather, if you don't like something, then it shouldn't exist. I'm like, that's not necessarily true because not everybody thinks like you do.
Exactly. I don't know. I just hate that mentality because that's why things get condemned that aren't actually as bad as they really are. And since there's no like fundamental scale by which you are actually like judging this thing, it's literally just, I didn't like this, so it's bad. Even if the quality overall is amazing, I didn't like it, so it's bad. Like Justice League, the things, we pointed out fundamental flaws with just the way things work in the film. Just like with Transformers, the logic of the film is flawed. So I can hardly understand or, I can hardly follow along with shit because 1 minute, the thing you said that works this way, it doesn't work that way. And now you have a new explanation. It's only been 5 minutes of us looking at this thing. So which is it? You know what I mean? Like, that's the problem.
From movie to movie.
Exactly. And it gets worse. Yeah. It gets worse from movie to movie.
And that's the saddest part because, again, I'm like, you have some of the same people working on this, right? Like, they can't even, like, carry this vision between, like, 2 films.
Exactly. Which makes no damn sense.
Like, this isn't like actual comics when you would have a new person, like, join a creative team and it's like, well, I don't really want to pay attention to what the last guy did, so I'm just going to pretend like none of that shit happened.
Exactly.
I don't respect it. But I can understand that mentality, especially when, like, comics are just have it like ingrained in them that like, well, strange things happen. So if I just come up with a big enough friggin' like MacGuffin, I can explain away like the last month or last year of storytelling.
Exactly.
Like in movies, that shit's a little hard because, like, one, you're trying to attract mainstream audiences, and part of the things that mainstream audiences don't like about comics is the constant reboots.
Exactly.
Like the constant, hey, this thing that you watched like a year ago doesn't mean anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what people love to hear. The fact they wasted $15 or whatever on a movie ticket, that now all that information, that entertainment they got out of it means nothing.
Yep. It's pretty annoying.
That doesn't mean you get to say like this movie doesn't exist though. like that's your thing. It cannot exist in your mind.
Exactly.
You
Like
can
in your
forget
own
about
world.
episode 8. You can forget about the prequels, even like we said, there is some good to be had out of the prequels, but man, do you have to friggin' look for that shit.
Well, the fights. Most of the action in all three prequels holds up. It's good shit. Whether or not you think that Jedis should be that skilled, that's all up to you. But the prequels had good action, decent action, and thematically there were some okay scenes, some cool stuff. You know, like the bigger fish.
Anything that was pure dialogue.
What's
you
up?
Can probably just do.
Yeah,
anything that was just pure dialogue, you can probably just do away with.
Yeah, forget about it. It was terrible. But but yeah, like the action was cool. Some of the set pieces were really dope. Like you can find things to like if you're just paying attention on a fundamental level, but just based on the fact that there's enough stuff there that you can like that was well done. You can't say the whole movie was garbage. You know what I mean? Like, and that happens way too much these days. You know, too many movies like Amazing Spider-Man. Both movies are not garbage. They're just not as good as the Raimi ones. And and there's things that they do better than the Raimi ones. They just didn't do enough to be like to overshadow those films. And that's fine. No one's saying that every Spider-Man movie that comes out has to be the greatest thing ever. The Raimi movies kind of set off all the shit we're watching now, you know, along with Blade. You know, the Blade was one
and
end.
Even Home? Oh, sorry.
No, Blade was just one end of the spectrum, and then Raimi's movies were the other end. Kind of like how DC set it up even ahead of time with Superman on one end and Batman on the other end. And they did enough where, like, the characters felt like the comics, and then some. And then their world felt like the comics, you know, and then some. Especially, like, with with Batman. Gotham felt more Gotham-y than, like, anything in the comics. Because only certain artists draw Gotham as a character, you know? Whereas most artists just draw a city, a generic city with a couple gargoyles here and there, you know? But, what were you about
it's kind of weird how Batman Begins felt more like Gotham, and then as the movies progressed, it felt less and less like Gotham.
Not even, and it was a large portion of the first movie that did not even take place in Gotham.
Exactly.
And the sad part about these two movies is that you can tell, like, there was like the overall theme, or a lot of the mentality behind both of them, was to literally kind of create you. Because with the Marvel movies, you can say that they're still trying to create, like, you know, again, these crowd pleasing, like, entertaining movies. It's like, but they've been literally doing this for like what,
15 years, over 10 years.
Over 10 years, and again, like, to say what you want about the formula works. Like, they made some adjustments in tone with Thor. But the third movie that was when they made Thor Ragnarok, was like everything that they did, that they wanted it to fit in with what they had, what they've already done. They wanted it to also, like, show, like, pieces of what's going to happen later. Like, everything just fit in with what they're doing. And then you have Justice League, which was originally going to spin off of what came before, but people didn't like what came before, so they wanted to rewrite that. And then they had to also change what comes after, because they didn't think that was going to hit, so they had to kind of minimize that shit. And then this movie is just a jagged little fucking sorry mess of because literally, like, they had to shave this thing from both sides. It's like they had to fuck around with what came before, and fuck around with where they were going, and in the end, you just get this collection of literally action scenes and exposition.
No, more exposition. There were like 3 action scenes in the whole film.
That's true too, and they weren't even
I'm
all
like, it's
that great.
Justice League. Every character should have had their own action sequence. And no, that's not what we got. Or like, let's talk about how stupid it was during the Superman resurrection scene. How they so the mother box touched the water. He flies
With
up
the
out of the
electrical
water.
charge from Flash, yeah.
Yeah, and so he flies up out the water. The mother box is thrown through the roof. It lands into the police car, and they're all consumed with Superman. And then
Yeah, nobody thought to get the mother
yeah,
box.
Steppenwolf is just like yoink and just runs
Yeah,
back.
and the whole time I'm like, is somebody going to get the mother box? Is
Yeah,
somebody going to get the mother box? Because the whole
Yeah,
time in my head,
Steppenwolf.
this is when Steppenwolf gets the mother box.
yeah, like
It's so
there's
dumb.
five
I
of
mean,
them.
I mean,
Five of them.
he literally could have like tiptoed behind them with like a
I
fucking
know,
like.
creeping behind like a thin tree, and he disappears behind the tree, and he comes out the other side of the tree, like peeking around, and you just see just his head.
It was
Yeah,
And he
ridiculous.
it's
reaches
so
his
comical.
arm out like.
Yeah. You play the little dun 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 dun. Like it's so dumb.
Yeah, it was stupid. It was real stupid. And that's
It's
the
like
level of
because
writing.
what was Batman doing since he like I don't want to be the first person he sees? Then it's your goddamn last man out gets a mother box.
Yeah.
He was getting
Come out,
Lois.
grabs a mother
Oh,
box.
that was
That's
another
me.
thing. So in the original cut, they didn't get Lois. It was his mom that they got, and she told him. She repeated. There were all these throughout the whole cut. There were all these throwbacks to Man of Steel, and there were a couple to BVS, but they were more direct, like on the negative side, like turning the negative into a positive. You know, like they're pointing out what happened in the previous film. So Batman's admitting fault, but then he would do something to kind of like in this film counteract what he did before, or to make up for what he did before somewhat. You know what I mean? Like most of his actions were direct relation to what he did in the previous film. But anyway, he went and got Clark's mom because he knew that if anyone could calm him down, it would be hearing her voice telling him, to listen for her, pretend her voice is an island. You remember how she did that in Man of Steel?
Yeah.
And that's what calmed him down, not Lois smelling good. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
how did I smell before?
I'm like, I get it. Your woman is important, and I get it. I totally know the like in my case, if I was Superman, yeah, you'd have to get my wife because my mom is not going to help. Like, it's just not going to help. She'll probably make me worse. But like,
my mom would yell, and I'd be like, "Oops, sorry."
My mom would make it worse. She would make it way worse. She'd be talking down to me or some shit, and it'd just be like, yeah, no. I'm smashing everything. But if my wife showed up, I'd be like, okay, because she smells nice and she's smart, so she'll say something smart that works, that would make me think, and it would work, and everything would be good. But in his case, his mom was so instrumental to him becoming the type of person he became, to him even having the balls to go out and do this stuff, because she told him, make the choice. And he made a choice, and he stuck by it. Him and his dad, or him, his mom, and his dad. And after the dad died, all he has is his mom. So it's kind of like you get it, And they fucking changed that shit too. I'm like, you guys you excel at making bad movies. Like you just excel at fucking up, chopping up a movie. Like they said that they had another company come in and chop the movie up to fit within the runtime, and they cut out everything that took away from getting to the point quickly. So all the connective tissue was all chopped off of that movie, and that's why it's so bad.
Just like BVS.
Yeah, that's why it's so lackluster.
That's what it felt like watching it. It's like, yeah, it's like you're just speeding along from scene to scene. It's like I'm feeling like I'm missing something. Like,
exactly.
Like there should be, like you said, connective tissue. Like there's like you're literally making leaps instead of steps, like as you progress through this movie. And I'm like, well, it's on par with everything else they do. We can't make the movie 3 hours again because that's not the reason why BVS was bad.
Exactly. Yeah,
like the length of it wasn't bad. That was just an unfortunate side effect of it being bad.
Well, like when you really think about it, the freaking all movies are like 2 and 3 hours long. It's not like
Yes, this new Star Wars is 2.5 hours
yeah,
long.
like why are we since Lord of the Rings? That's been the standard, just like everything else in Hollywood. Like one movie does it and everybody does it, you know. So I just I don't know. I feel like
And I feel like they're gonna do the Snyder cut on the DVD release because they got to make back some of that money.
yeah. Well, and it's even though it's incomplete, I wonder if they're going to spend the money to complete those scenes.
Well, I
I
mean,
was gonna
you
say
had
like what
some CG already done that they cut out of the trailers that they could have put back into the film.
But I mean, like
but
those
Yeah,
scenes, like Darkseid shows up in the original cut,
yeah,
and they don't.
and then you had parts with Cyborg flying through the air doing his Iron Man thing.
Yeah,
There's that part where he jumped and blocked that car from hitting that cop, and then he said some one liner or something like that.
yeah,
So I'm sure there's shit that they got done that probably got cut out that they could just throw back in.
yeah. I mean, time will tell. I just, it's so annoying that all that shit happened. Like,
Yeah, they may as well spend the money to finish it up because it's not like they're gonna gain any of it back.
I know, right?
Even if the DVDs and Blu-ray sell,
Yeah,
they're at such a loss.
I agree. They are at a loss. They're at a big loss. But I don't know. Justice League was very meh. All these people saying that it was so great. It's the best DC, EU film. Stop. Just stop it.
no.
Stop
Stop
that
it.
jumbo crack. You need to
Stop.
get off of it. It's messing with your
I
mind.
mean, and I get it. Everyone has their preference. I get it. But fundamentally, and I say this all the time, just as a story, it doesn't hold up. Visually, there was nothing. There's one standout scene in the whole movie. One. It doesn't need to be like that.
Yeah.
So I'm not buying that the movie was so great that I have to like sing its praises, like everybody else was doing. No, it's just all you have to say is it's better than the last one. Maybe the last two, and that's it. Maybe sort of better than the last two because it had a more uplifting tone than BVS, which helps. But like as a film, it had exactly the same kind of flaws to it, because you chopped it up, and the logic wasn't there, and stuff just was missing. Um, freaking Thor was on point. Thor was
Yeah.
completely on point. I don't have any complaints with that film. The probably if I could have a complaint, it's Odin wasn't really going through anything, and that was kind of annoying because I would have expected him to have been going through something. You know what I mean? Like,
Odin's death kind of reminded me of the original Master's death from Kung Fu Panda. He just like kind of like went to like a serene place and just freaking turned into like cherry blossoms, and
yeah.
that was it. He was
Which
just gone. And like,
it's cool. It's just I want a
yeah,
reason for I want like why would he not realize that his son is fucking everything up in the son he adopted? It's his fault that Loki's even there. Why would you not be like, I gotta fix this shit, or I at least need to tell him something so that he stops this bullshit? Like
yeah.
instead he just left. That's probably my only issue. It would have been cool if it was like, you know, amnesia or like
Well, remember, he did say that it took him a little while to break free from his spell.
yeah,
He
yeah,
was,
that's true. So
So he
maybe
was out of it for a while.
yeah,
But then, yeah, he didn't come back to set things right.
exactly. Like he knew shit was fucked up, and he's waiting for Thor to figure it out, even though he could have just told him. And I get it. There's a reason for all that, but he could have just said to his son, like, "You need to fix this shit. I started this, but I'm gonna give you the means to, or let you know, give you the information for you to fix this, because your brother's fucking shit up, and this is what you were supposed to do." But they went
Yeah,
in.
somebody pointed out, because, at the end of the movie, Odin says that the hammer, it wasn't there. The hammer wasn't the source of your power. It was just there to help you direct it. So, if he had that power all that time, why wasn't he? I don't know. The way they worded it, it kind of was like it kind of made me go, because like why wasn't he still a match for Hela?
Oh, if he because he didn't. Well, he was when he unleashed it.
Yeah, like he had that power, I guess, within him the whole time.
Yeah, he just didn't
Um,
realize it. I mean, it's like in
yeah,
Street Fighter how like Ryu and Ken had to learn how to be able to focus their Hado. Like, you have to learn it. You have to learn how to channel it. It's not something you just one day you're just like, hey, huh, I win, and it's done. Like, or like the Force or something. You have to be taught what to do, or you have to go through things to force you to unlock that ability. So I get that part. The part that I don't get is just their father, Odin, knowing that everything is fucked up and they're heading for the end, and he's not, like, maybe he foresaw that it was going to be a good thing in the long run.
Yeah, or maybe it needed to happen.
Yeah. But
yeah, your sister's coming, and if you think your brother's a dick,
I know, right?
just wait till you see her.
Yeah. But I dug the movie. It's a nitpick because everything still worked out and it made sense. Yeah. I still loved seeing how he fought in the beginning of the movie. I like how he fought, period. But when he was throwing his hammer and it was coming back super fast, or how he'd throw it and then move, and it would move in a circle or something like that. Like,
yeah, you're seeing it from the hammer's point of view, hitting all the enemies and stuff.
Good. It was so good. It was so imaginative because it's like when Edmund and I were talking, my little brother and I were talking about when we used to play with these toys, like, because we played with the Justice League more than we played with the Marvel figures, because we had Marvel figures first, like a lot of them because of Toy Biz. You remember how Toy Biz had like every fucking character you could imagine had a figure back in the early 90s, But when we played with Thor, we used to do stuff like that where we make him throw the hammer, and you hold the hammer in front of your face to pretend like you're seeing where the hammer is flying. I remember watching him do this with Captain America's shield, where he would do that, and he's like, I'm trying to see where it's going. And we're just goofing off playing, and I'm like, how come this is shit they don't really go around and do in the films when you have all these weird different, the GoPro, and you have your fucking, your handhelds, and you have your steady cams and your blah blah. You can emulate all this shit.
CG.
Yeah, with CGI, you can do all that shit.
CG.
And they don't do it, And then finally, you see it, or like how when he was throwing the hammer, it was starting to glow after a while, and it was bouncing back super fast, and he was catching it and then spinning and throwing it and like Thor was moving around like he knew what the fuck he was doing. It wasn't just a brawl. And it's like, you have to imagine that a guy who goes through the stuff that he's been going through in mythology, not in the Marvel universe, just pretend he only did the stuff from mythology. Clearly, Thor knows how to throw down. Like, he has to be able to fight. And you have to be able to show it in a way that makes it look like he's a match for whatever. Because can you imagine when he fights the whatever member of the Children of Thanos? Like, it's going to be ridiculous. It has to be. It has to be, if based on what we just saw. Whereas, like, when you're watching Justice League and you're seeing them fumble through fighting parademons, like, you're struggling fighting fucking automatons, fucking morons, like, just flying around, not even in formation, randomly flying around shooting shit. You can't handle them, but we're supposed to believe that you're going to protect the world from fucking Imperiex or fucking, Parasite or Mongol or fucking Hank Henshaw or, any number of other villains when we've watched Superman fight a bunch of Kryptonians by himself, and he could easily have dealt with all that shit. We didn't need those other guys fumbling around. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Even in the movie, he could have dealt with the threat by himself. The whole movie could have been like resurrecting Superman. That's it. And once they do it, and that took like 5 minutes. That was like a 5-minute scene. I couldn't believe how lame that shit was. Like, 5 minutes of them breaking into a place and just the dumbest explanation for anything I've ever seen. Oh, you got to run around in a circle and the electricity has to touch the... What if he ran really fast and didn't generate electricity? Like,
I know, wouldn't you just set up and try it again?
Yeah, like, why don't you just turn the damn machine on?
It wasn't like you only had one shot at it, even though they said you did, but I don't see why you could just reset.
They said the power.
I missed. I'll go fish it out.
I know the mother box is wet. It doesn't work anymore. We gotta let the battery dry.
I don't know if that's good. Is it good? It's probably not good.
I know. Why wouldn't the mother box that was in Atlantis not work anymore?
Yeah, I know, right?
It was like on deep sea, submerged.
Yeah. It's just so many things that just. It felt like they were doing stuff to get the job done, like story wise. Like we got to make this movie, and we need to hurry up and get it out there, and it worked because they appeased a lot of people. I just want more for the Justice League. They're so fucking good that it doesn't make sense that we got such a mediocre film. You know, there's an Imaginext TV show on YouTube where the Justice League does better shit than in this film. Batman and Robin and Superman are all doing cooler shit, and it's comedy, and they do way better shit. You know what I mean? Like, every animated version of the Justice League I think I've seen in recent years has done better shit than this.
I know the Shazam Superman fight was better than any fight in that movie.
Yeah, and it was animated, and you can't hide behind the concept that what they do in animation they can't do in real. Yes, they can. Yes, they can.
We're way past that point.
Yeah,
we're at least 10 years, probably more, from just saying like, man, animation can do things that, like, no,
exactly,
no, like we're there now.
I will never.
All the fights in Man of Steel were better.
Yeah, because there felt like stakes. There were stakes. Something was gonna happen. Like Justice League felt like they were going through the motions. Like, and it wasn't even creative motions. It was just they're going through the motions. You know, with the exception of a few characters.
Well, they had to save that one family.
Yeah, I know, right?
It was like that one family and not an entire place that just.
Well, it was funny that you saw Superman fly by with the building full of people.
Supposedly.
And the Flash was like feeling all accomplished with himself. Like, save this family. All right, that's great. I'm definitely doing better than Superman. And then it was like, nope, no, you're not.
Yeah. Superman just flies by with an entire, like, friggin' 6-story apartment
big
building.
ass abandoned a fucking building. Like, stop fooling people, Superman. You know nobody's in there.
And it almost felt like they had to answer
the Man of Steel people.
Yes, again. And Man of Steel. Because they're fighting in a place that has people, and you got to see what we were clamoring for. We wanted to see Superman saving people and the Justice League, protecting. So we kind of got that a little bit, but it was like just enough, and then back to the slog fest. That was the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those things, man.
I want to see crowd control. That's what I want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like, Flash could have been doing that by himself, and that was the frustrating part, is that they didn't use him
along this way, please.
Just, I don't know. But hopefully, somewhere down the line, they'll do it right, and then I can stop being annoyed with this shit. Because I just don't understand, like, we've all, if you own DC figures, we've all played the Justice League coming together at least once, or them fighting an alien invasion at least once in your childhood. You know what I mean? And it probably was more enjoyable than this film. In most cases. Granted, I mean, obviously there's no special effects, but you're using your imagination. I'm pretty sure most
special effects.
Huh? What'd you say?
That's the best special effects.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, because it's exactly how you want it to be, because it's in your mind. The cartoons have given us better versions of this. So it's like, if people like it, it's fine. But just recognize that there's at least 20 different versions of this story playing out that are more interesting. Fucking the CW has done it like 3 times, and each time has been more enjoyable than this. It didn't look as good because the money isn't there, but there's money. But it was more enjoyable, and they didn't even use like the main characters of DC. You know what I mean? Just
they had, because of the lack of money, they had to think about how do we do it and make it on the scale of like something similar to a big budget movie, and so you have to focus on things like plot and
the setup
and setup, because you don't have the money to just make everything look flashy.
Well, and then you need those oh shit moments, and they managed to pull those off on the scale that they, their money can afford. We needed that in the movie. Like, Batman didn't have a single oh shit moment in that movie. He wasted the Batmobile in this movie. He wasted the fucking Flying Fox. He wasted the fucking Nightcrawler. He just had shit. He didn't really do... Like, yeah, he was the rich guy. That's it. He's a rich guy. He didn't know how to do anything with all his shit. Like, I
actually like the fact that he got put in his place.
Yeah, no, I like that too. But I wanted, like, when he finally was, like, in suicide mode at the end, I wanted to see him flip out of the. I wanted him to be like Arkham Knight in that armored suit, jump out of the fucking Batmobile and just start murking shit because the world is gonna fucking end. You don't get to struggle with the sidekick when the world is coming to a fucking end. You can struggle when that shit's over. Like, you're Batman. You know what I mean? Like, he says it, the mission is the most important thing. So he's going to throw his all at the bad guys. He's not going to, that's the Batman, at least, that I've been reading, the one that I like. That's why I don't read the current Batman comics like I used to, because that Batman is lost because he's become such a big brand that they want the fanboys to suck his dick so hard that they do everything they can to just make him throw as much Batman at them as possible, even if it doesn't make sense. And I'm just like, nah. There's a certain way this character should be portrayed across all media. And that's editorials, like, that's their job, to make sure that shit happens. And it should translate into film, And they're not doing a good job translating that shit across all media. Like, the film version's kind of meh. And I thought this Batman would be the closest to the comics that we ever got, And he totally was not that.
Yeah, it's weird, and that's why I was saying about some of the steps they could go with Aquaman in his movie, because you think that they've created the potential for it to go in this really obvious direction, and it just doesn't go that way. Because I was thinking that with Superman after Man of Steel, how you had all this stuff that happened that went wrong, but that's just gonna fuel him to be better in the next film,
exactly,
and it just go into another direction that isn't really indicative of the character, and it makes it makes for a bad film, and not representative of all of anything that anybody recalls from the comics.
Yeah, it's weird. It's all fucking weird. I don't know how else to put it. It's just weird that that's how they did things. But
because because a lot of the stuff that they borrow from from established like media, I guess, from comics or from cartoons or whatever. Like you said, like they steal like some of the images, but like not
the intent.
Make so many changes to like the psychology and the mentality behind a lot of these things, and they wind up making so much more work for themselves.
Exactly, because now you got to explain away why the fuck we ended up here. That's not easy, especially when you're using dated material as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're modernizing something, like that's one thing, but like I said, like you're just removing like wholesale elements necessary to explain why this is happening, and you're either replacing them with something inferior, or you're just leaving them out. And I'm like, and then you wind up with an inferior story, and and people watching your fucking movie are like, well, why did that happen?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait a minute, why is he? Wait, what? And then like now you're not in the movie.
Exactly.
Like, because you can't suspend disbelief anymore because your brain is stuck on this doesn't make sense.
Yep. But
I can't wait for the Black Panther movie.
I know, right? Where they show him how it's done again, and it's funny because, like, in comics, I've been a DC fan for so long, but I also read Marvel, and in movies, I'm straight up all about the Marvel shit because I don't have these problems with the Marvel stuff. I don't even know why people don't see it as like you can jump to the other ship when you want to enjoy a superhero film. Like you don't have to
enjoy it.
Yeah, as long as you enjoy it, you don't have to pretend like the the DC film is good. Like we know Suicide Squad sucked. It's okay. You can turn around and go watch Guardians of the Galaxy 1 or 2 because they've done it right twice. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to sit there and deal with that. You can watch the Marvel Netflix stuff. Except for what's his name, Iron Fist. And Luke Cage. And even Luke Cage will get a little. You get a little bit more enjoyment out of Luke Cage than you would out of Iron Fist. but like there's so much of this shit out there that like there's no reason for you to be like I'm all one and not the other. I'm like, well, sucks to be you because there's a lot of good shit out there, and I can enjoy all of it as opposed to just one or two of these things.
You don't get paid.
I know. I don't. They're not paying me any extra. They're not paying me anything at all. I'm paying them to watch their product.
Like you don't get paid.
Yeah, I know.
You don't get shit.
DC's going to give you more money for hating on Marvel properties.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm like, you don't get anything for free. Like, I could see if like Marvel or DC were straight hooking you up with like free movies or free comics or movie tickets.
Shit,
I'm
could you
like, no, they're
imagine?
not.
Could you
So
imagine that shit? I
why?
can't even imagine them giving me free shit. Like, dude,
Like,
like our stuff. Hey, that's easy. I already do. Hey, we'll pay you extra money to tell people that you like our stuff. Hell yes, give me the money. I could use the extra money, but
exactly.
that's not
So
what's going
just
on.
like you say, give everything a chance. If you like it, that's cool. If not,
That's
that's
also
cool
cool.
too. At least you checked it out.
But call a spade a spade. That's my big gripe. Call a
Yeah,
spade a fucking
and like you
spade.
said, if there's something you don't like about a thing, recognize that there's something you don't like about it, or if the thing is genuinely bad.
Yeah.
And if the thing is genuinely bad, I'm sure there's still good. There's still elements to it that you said, well, that part kind of worked, or I like this. Even if it's like, even if it's a song that they use in a particular scene, like just there's got to be something out of the experience where it was like, wow, okay, well at least it was that part.
Or being angry that one franchise has a formula that's working, and knowing that that it is a formula is not a reason to, I think, hate on the film,
Yeah.
especially if
Do
it's
you know?
still if it's still effective.
Do
Yeah.
you know why they developed the formula?
Because money's
I can't.
involved.
I can't think of one reason, but I can think of several billion reasons why
Yeah.
they developed a formula.
Yeah.
I know, and it's funny because you can't be mad at the formula because DC's trying to copy the formula and they're failing at it.
Yep. Well, and
Because
then like these days, people try to judge films on how much money they make anyway. So why do we have to pretend like money isn't a factor, and the formula isn't necessary to ensure the most money made? Like I hate the way that like people they review everything like sports. They review toys like sports, video games, movies, everything. So and
We like
so.
sports and we don't care who does.
They're always like, so and so, he's 0 for 3. He's done he hasn't done a great movie yet. Blah blah blah. Motherfucker, it's not a seasonal fucking game. You know what I
he's in
mean?
a 3 movie slump.
Yeah, like get the fuck out of here. It's frustrating because it's like, then they'll say shit like, "Oh, it's art. It's subjective." Okay, so then why didn't you think that when you were poorly reviewing the film? It's art. Maybe you didn't like some of the stuff that was going on, but and you didn't explain a fundamental flaw in the art of doing this thing that was done in the film. So then, what are you exactly saying to us, the audience, the public, the viewing public? What exactly are you trying to tell us other than you didn't like it? You know what I mean? And that's usually what these all boil down to.
Which is not a criticism.
Yep. It's
That is
preference.
literally a subjective statement. It's like for like some part of this I did not approve of,
I did
which is
not.
fine. That's your right, but that's not a criticism.
Yep. Because it gets old when you hear this shit over and over and over. This movie sucked. This movie was terrible. The CG was garbage. Tell me why it was garbage. I didn't like it. Okay, why didn't you like it? It just looked weird. Why did it look weird? What was wrong with it? I don't really know. So how does the movie suck? Or the movie sucks because one voice actor didn't actually, turn out the way I expected. Okay, but that's the
Or the
voice.
people that are saying the CG sucks don't ever have
A way
any
to
kind of
fix it.
technical knowledge of how it works in the first place to explain what could have been done to make it better.
Exactly.
I mean, there's one thing like you can always say like, oh, I didn't like this animation style because the way they drew the proportions of the physical form just didn't mesh well with me. Whereas where you've seen other times where they've done exaggerated body shapes and body types, it worked because of this, and this. So the form followed the function, and blah 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 blah, and it all came together. But they can't do that because they don't understand
or they don't even bother to
how
go.
CG, how compositing works in the first place.
These same cats don't even bother to read the cast list or the cast and crew to know that the fucking director didn't write the goddamn film. How would they sit down and actually research how the shit works? That's us asking way too much of them because they clearly just want to bitch about something,
Like we mentioned the CG for Steppenwolf. So my issue with that is that I don't really know what Steppenwolf did
to
as a
require him
character
being
in this
CG.
movie to require him to be a CG creation as opposed to a guy in a costume.
He just needed something big and imposing that screams bad guy, and that was basically their reasoning.
And his design wasn't imposing. His design wasn't imposing enough.
Was it you, Strydent? I was talking about it before, where they said the studio liked the guy's voice.
Yeah, Kieran Hines. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously he didn't fit the physical part. I'm like, then you can also do that too.
They did it with Darth Vader.
Like some
fucking.
You could have had some piece of of his armor just like covered his face.
Yeah.
And then you don't actually see him speak. Like you can do all these things.
Even the muscle suit that they've been doing that they did with Superman and Michael Shannon in Man of Steel to make him bigger.
Like they just did.
Yeah. So many ways.
Everybody's not that you want to have in these roles is not going to be built like Brock Lesnar, but have like acting range, for friggin' days. It's not going to happen. So I guess this is the compromise. You find the voice because you need that to be an actual person.
Yep, I
agree. And then you just said, "All right, fine, we'll just CG a body." I'm like, no, it's bad enough you have to CG the parademons because they fly.
Yeah, well, and that's fine because I'm sure.
Well, yeah, that's what I said. You have to.
Yeah.
Because of the functionality of them, it works way better if you just CG them.
Yeah.
But I'm like, just for Steppenwolf, you could have found a big dude who had a voice or just dubbed it in or something.
I don't get why for villains.
I felt it kind of took away. It kind of took away.
Well, villains like him are like horror movie bad guys, and they always get a big wrestler type to play these big ass horror movie mass murderers anyway. Why not do the same thing with these villains? Just have him have a physical performance, give him things to do, and just make sure that the setup is good. They could have done the same thing with what's his name, Doomsday. Or they, instead of CGing everything, like the fact that they didn't make, what's his name's suit, Zod. His suit was like all CG. What was the point of that? Like, why didn't you just build a suit?
Yeah.
Like Batman in certain scenes, his armored suit was all CG. But I'm like, if he couldn't do these moves in the suit, why the fuck did you make the suit for the film? Why didn't you make a better suit for the film? Your budget was like, $500 million, close to $500 million? You know what I mean? Like, most of these movies were pretty fucking expensive. How the fuck did you not spend a lot of that money on making things that work? Especially when you knew ahead of time what you're going to be making it for. I don't know. It's just from the ground up, a lot of times their approach is flawed. And they just need to have a better approach because that way you can make a better fucking film. It's just that simple,
Yeah. Well, remember way back when Man of Steel came out, and then I think whatever Marvel movie came out next at that point, and then they asked DC, like they asked the heads of DC, the heads of Warner Brothers, like, do you plan on doing some sort of DC cinematic universe? Do you plan on answering Marvel? And they said no. Always remember, the first response they gave when they asked if they were doing an interconnected universe was no.
It was a lie.
We're gonna do our trilogy of Superman movies. So don't forget that was on the docket too. And then they're probably gonna do a movie about someone else, and then they're probably gonna do Batman again because that just seems to be the cycle they were on.
Yeah, this is a cycle they're gonna always be on.
And then they tried to do interconnected movies, and they tried to do a cinematic universe, and every single step has been like Sideshow Bob stepping on a rake. It's like no matter which way you turn, there's a rake.
Yep.
And I'm like, and it's sad because we're talking 4 movies now.
Mm-hmm.
Like where if they haven't been, I mean, again, they're not irredeemable, but they are certainly not they did not do an adequate job of building suspense and anticipation for the next one.
And they didn't even have to worry about if it didn't work, they're gonna lose everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean,
well, I don't. Like I said, it's our job. It's kind of like what I say when I'm doing reviews, and the figure is missing a piece or something, and it's something that if we collect, we might have something to substitute for that. We shouldn't have to fix this. We shouldn't even have to contemplate how to fix it. It's entertainment. These people get paid massive amounts of money to make good shit. Make shit that's going to make more money because it entertained us, And now more than ever, when you have movie viewership, movie going viewership at an all-time low. Now more than ever, you need to make quality fucking films to put seats or asses in seats. If you're not going to do that, then, you know, you shouldn't be in that position. You shouldn't be doing that. It's that simple. It's just like, you know, like we make YouTube videos, you know. We're not like we're old YouTube because it's about the regular people doing this shit. We don't have a giant studio behind us. That's what people come to YouTube for. At least back in the day, that's what they did. I don't know about the new generation, but the old generation, we used to come to YouTube to watch regular people talk about shit that matters to us, you know? Yeah. Not to watch fancy editing and fancy transitioning and blah, blah, blah. We didn't need all that shit. We only needed regular people talking. It doesn't have to be smooth. They can curse. They can stutter a little bit. It's the fact that they're telling us the truth that's unbiased. And nowadays, that's not what we get. You know what I mean? And these folks are still making stuff on YouTube. You know, they still have, what's the word? They're still getting attention, I guess. You know, because that's what the viewership is kind of turning to. But the bottom line is that these people are still being entertained somewhat. I mean, with the film industry is kind of like in the opposite way. They don't let us make that kind of shit. It's a for us by. I shouldn't even say for us by. It's like exclusive. You know, the same people make all the movies. That's why we're getting all the same shit, and we're getting sequels, and we're not getting new stuff. You know, we're getting sequels, prequels. We're getting side stories, but we're not getting new like real new original content. And they wonder why viewership is at a low. It's at a low because you do the same thing over and over and over and over. And we need
there
some
are other
new
options that are cheaper, that are more convenient. I think the biggest hook is the whole more convenient thing. It's like, well, I can just sit on my butt and watch, like, you know, a great friggin' television series. Like, exactly. Yes, I will do that instead.
Yeah, and you don't have to deal with going out and overpriced food and crowds and people being shitty in the theater.
Exactly. Yep. Like, that's in the same shit with retail. People are like, oh, well, retail is dying. It's like, because I think retail underestimated how much people really hate to go shopping.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, when you can just get everything from Amazon, why bother going to the store?
The act of finding a parking spot, first actually getting to the location where the store is, finding a parking space, like then like, you know, making your way through the store. Maybe they have what you want, maybe they didn't. There's all these little pitfalls, like in that process that people really don't have to deal with, and now will not deal with.
Yeah, why go to the store when you can get better deals online?
Yeah, like as soon as like stores needed to do real-time inventory if they expect to stay in business, and they still don't do that. I don't have any numbers on the logistics of that because that's not what I was brought in to talk about today. But if they have not evolved to like real-time logistics, and you literally will not have brick and mortar stores.
Yeah.
Period. Because who's going to want, unless you're talking about groceries, that's different. But there's even people cutting in on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, who's gonna want to go out and then, like I said, run the risk of not having a thing? Like, and then again, like movies, it's like, dude, I have other entertainment options that I can consume in a much more pleasant way, much more appealing way.
And then
so I will do that.
You have to think too, like games, good games kind of cut into your movie experience, your cinematic experience. And more, you have the Hollywood studios and folks from the Hollywood studios making games. So you're getting a hybrid of, you know, it's an interactive version of what you would have been sitting in front of for 2-3 hours in the movie theater.
Well, you're getting a more immersive because you get to be, you have a controlling factor in this game.
Yeah, it's interactive. Like you and the game are interacting. So like, why would you spend the money you spend almost $20 on a ticket to go see that shit in some fancy kind of format in the theater, and it's lackluster and you didn't interact with it and it's not memorable. Then you go home, you put in, you know, whatever game, Metal Gear, fucking Arkham Knight, Arkham City, whatever. Uncharted, you know, whatever. Yeah. And you have like a full-on fucking interactive, immersive experience. And you spent your $60, which would be like 3 tickets. I mean, we're not going to get into the DLC and shit like that. you spend your base level, whatever, and you have this experience, and the experience will be more memorable than what you would get going to the movies. It's strange that like they're not pulling out all the stops. Like you could have read the script for Justice League and said, no, we need better than this. The rewrites, you could have read the rewrites and said, no, this is not good enough. We really need to get people's
feelings, though.
They would have listened to all the wrong people.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it always happens.
That's probably what happened, and that's an issue for me. Is like stop listening to fanboys that are complaining. Listen to what the criticisms are, so you can tell what kind of fanboy it is, what kind of person it is. Do they really know what they're complaining about? Because what I see is a lot of people complaining and not knowing what it is they're complaining about.
No, yeah, fanboys don't know what they want because they wanted Zack Snyder out of these movies after BVS, and then they saw Justice League, and now they want the Zack Snyder cut. Like, wait a minute, what happened?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what exactly what is gonna make you happy?
Yeah,
and I mean,
you don't even know what you want to be happy.
And I wish somebody would literally bring that up, not as like not as a be all end all dismissal, though it could very easily be that.
Yeah.
It's like you guys were absolutely, like you said, friggin' totally convinced that friggin' like Zack Snyder was all that was wrong with these. Now you desperately want a Zack Snyder cut of Justice League.
Yep.
Explain.
Exactly.
And you don't even know it. Like it has the potential to not be as good as what you saw.
Well, people
said that's the reason why they cut it. I'm just saying hypothetically.
Yeah.
And plus, there's a bunch of stuff that they just flat out didn't even film because it wasn't even done. So it's like, like Whedon came in and did the stuff that he conceived and freaking filled in the gaps.
Yeah.
So like you'd have to literally bring like Zack Snyder back in to film his scenes. And that definitely ain't happening.
I don't think that's happening. I wonder if he's even going to continue directing. He's probably going to be gone for a while. And I would be too.
Yeah, I would be.
Or they might talk behind the scenes and like,
have him produce.
Yeah, or have him produce or just not have a main just not have as big an influence as he's had in the past.
Yeah.
I don't know. Listening to fan complaints.
Yeah.
And the fans didn't want him there.
I don't know about all the this is the part that frustrates me about when we do reviews is like I know as someone who, studied some of this shit and you guys know from doing research, you know how this shit works. Actually, you took history of cinema and shit like that in school as well. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There's like more to it. But when we're reviewing the film, we should only be concerned with the end result. Sitting there having all these excuses for why the end result ends up the way it ends up, it's kind of like, ugh, really? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't be like that. We shouldn't be spending so much time, because, like, the average person shouldn't be talking about the figures at the box office, because who gives a fuck? Transformers is the conversation ender of that train of thought.
Yeah.
Because Transformers movies are terrible. They're terrible fundamentally. Graphically, they're confusing. Only the last movie was readable. All the other movies, what the fuck
was going on? It took, 5 movies to do that?
Yeah, what the fuck is going on? The characterizations are terrible and inconsistent. Shit happens just because, all across the board, even up to the last movie. So, like, the fact that those movies broke, $4 billion just, and that's before the last 2, I think it is. No, the figures don't matter. Because it's clear that people just want to be entertained. And if you put a spectacle on the screen in front of them, they're going to sit there and stare at it. And even if the spectacle is not good or consistent, they're still going to stare. They're still going to pay to watch it. And as long as the WWE crowd is involved, you're going to have a huge turnout. And it seems
even that has a shelf life because, after the last movie, China is here, and they're starting to realize
China's no longer here when it comes to
they're starting to realize that this shit isn't gonna fly anymore because they were like cracking about how stupid it was. People were texting during the movies. Nobody was giving a fuck.
Yeah,
and wow, that took a relatively short amount of time because that's been less than 2 decades that they've been like the friggin' savior of a lot of these big budget movies.
Yeah,
we'll go to China and we'll make our money back.
Yep.
China already is reaching that point of saturation.
Yep.
Because you just thought you could shovel out anything and China would save you, and China's like, no.
Hmm?
Yeah, I don't.
And like you said, so what happened? So when that reckoning comes,
A reckoning. I reckon.
like, what's he after? It's a reckoning. Like, so I don't know what to do. Like because it's not like everybody all of a sudden is going to get better at their job in Hollywood. So it's like, all right, dust out those like actual good scripts we have. Like, no, they don't have those. It's
Well, they do. They're just not
guys.
using them.
Yeah.
They're not using them anymore. They're ignoring them for safe, what they consider safe, and then they're losing money on that. So it's clear that we need new shit. Like, notice how when you listen to this is how you know that the film industry and the way it's been working, they do a lot to skew people's perspectives, and a lot of people are missing who the quality filmmakers are. Like, no one talks about, few people in the mainstream talk about Guillermo del Toro the way that they should. And this man hasn't really made a bad film.
Yeah, I think the only one that wasn't that great was that horror house movie thing he did with Tom Hiddleston.
Oh, the Crimson Peak.
Yeah,
but a lot of horror people liked it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and it reviewed
I
well.
heard like people didn't. Like a friend of mine who really loves Del Toro and loves horror movies hated it. But I mean, it's whatever. I don't do horror, so I can't
I'm not
say.
a big fan of horror movies either. What I've heard was the movie is pretty, and stylistically he like went full on gothic horror, and it was pretty dope. Like, people like that, fans of that genre, because it's a genre film, so it's that type of thing. If you like that, you're gonna go nuts over it. But like the movie made its money back. You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't make flops, is what I'm trying to get at. And like, if and that's just the financial side. And I said we shouldn't really be focused on that. But like, for the people who know, they give this man his props. All his movies are dope. They all kind of cover something slightly different. Even the horror films he made all covered slightly different material.
Yeah.
His approach to the way he does stuff is a little bit different, because he definitely is way under budget when he finishes a film, because he shoots everything in Mexico and stuff with his own crew over there as opposed to the U.S. crew. You can tell it is just imagination. He uses his imagination to give you something you didn't get before. And people don't really talk about him the way that they talk about some of these hipster directors and shit. Like, I don't understand how some of these cats, like, why didn't they offer him a Star Wars movie? You know what I mean? Could you imagine, like, in Hellboy 2, when you saw, like, the Goblin market.
Black Market.
Like, that shit was insane. Yeah. That was like a Star Wars film. They still haven't offered him that. Everything was unique. Every single fucking character was so unique. Yet, they still haven't offered him something like that where you could, see what he's capable of. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, I read today that Matthew Vaughn had called up Mark Miller because at one point this had been fairly recently, they were considering having Vaughn direct the second Man of Steel movie, and he was asking Mark if he wanted to get in on this. And Mark was like, I can't even have this conversation right now because I'm going to be tied up for years with Netflix, because he's got over there.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
just the idea of that happening. I think would have been, I would have been a step in the right direction, because I mean, the dude Vaughn can direct. I mean, I don't know about having Mark Miller in there, but
Matthew Vaughn, like, you need him
to see Matthew Vaughn and as the director.
Yeah, like because I think
they're both big Superman fans, so maybe they would
do it right.
They would make the right movie.
They would do it right. You could tell, man. Like I said, Matthew Vaughn needs to get on G.I. Joe right now, because he would fix it. Like, because like I look at what's the dude's name? Ryan Johnson, who directed the recent Star Wars, The Last Night or Last Jedi.
Yeah.
That was fucking Transformers.
There's a lot of last something. Just keep going over that in movies.
So like, he directed like 5 or 6 films One of which was Looper, which
Yeah.
didn't get like the greatest reception, and this motherfucker's directing Star Wars. Like
And I
what?
actually I thought Looper was okay.
It was a good story, I get it, but I'm just saying
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
didn't
I mean, he
do
got panned overall.
yeah, it didn't do
Yeah.
what people. As a matter of fact, he didn't even direct. What did he direct? One, two, three, four. Yeah, 5 films, and most of them weren't like. How do I put it? They're kind of like indie films, you know, like they're not things that like the majority of people who will watch Star Wars are not going to go back and watch the films that
Yeah, you
he
wouldn't see
directed.
him directing a Star Wars film
Yeah, I mean, based
based off of
his
his what
filmography,
he's
it's like
done in the
what,
past.
like what the fuck? Nothing he did except for Looper would say, oh, maybe he can handle Star Wars. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's frustrating to me that you have guys out there who like their whole filmography shows a mastery of this genre of film, but then they're gonna go to the dude, you know, someone who does like typically like indie films.
No, I mean he knew the right people. I mean,
Apparently, I mean, but this is what I mean when I say like
yeah,
it's kind of a fixed kind of situation where people who need the shot at this stuff aren't the people, excuse me, in league with people that could give them the shot.
yeah.
And when you listen to, you know, fans of film and blah blah blah, they only know a handful of directors because they're the ones constantly being thrown around right now in the public consciousness. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
the films that they make should speak for themselves. It shouldn't be like this guy's the it guy. Hipsters like this dude. Fuck that guy. We need to know what he does. Is he capable of doing this particular thing? And that's not what we're getting. And you know, I'm no disrespect to these guys. They obviously they know something. They know how to do this to some degree better than someone else because they're doing it. You know, they're out there in the in Hollywood. They got the shot. However they got it, they got it. You know what I mean? So no disrespect to them, but I feel like you very as this type of artist, you pick a lane and you stay in it because it's hard enough to get in the fucking lane. So if you're a sci-fi person, you get into the sci-fi lane, you cement yourself, you plant your feet, and that's what you make. You know what I mean? You could put a spin on it and shit, but you're a sci-fi guy. I mean, I know there's directors out there who don't want to be pigeonholed and they won't just do one particular thing. I get that. That's fine. But more
But it doesn't
than
even seem like the guys that can do the job are even getting offered the job.
yeah, that's exactly where I'm going. Is like the guys who can do the job don't seem to be the ones in the running for the job. It's quickly given to, you know, folks that are from out of left field. And if they do a good job, everyone's surprised. And then you further ignore the guys who could have done this. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't make sense to me. And
Yeah.
and that's going to be a problem for me forever. Watching these, you know, these movies and seeing these, you know, directors that like Taika Waititi shouldn't have had to be the one to show up to Thor to make Thor viable. When you have action directors and shit that should have been working on this stuff, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make
Yeah, I
sense.
mean it's great when it works, but
Yeah,
you know you had other solutions available to you.
exactly. And why did we have to wait for it to be like an out of left field solution when you could have just went within the you know, the confines of that particular. I mean, and I guess people are tired of looking within the those confines. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to break it down, but it just seems strange to me that like you would get, you know, like Chad Stileski and what's his name, Lettich, whatever his name is, David Lettich or whatever. I think the two guys that did the first John Wick. They're
Yeah.
stunt people, and you have them directing films, but you never went and said, let's get John Woo out of retirement and have him direct this shit, and just say like we want in the script it describes the type of action that you want for this movie, so you get those guys to deal with the action, and you get John Woo to direct the film. You know what I mean? Like I'm tired of seeing people imitate the legendary directors that do this thing. You know what I mean? Like how does George Miller not get to do a Justice League film, especially now that we've seen how he handles like high action with today's technology and shit. You know what I mean? And an ensemble cast and all that stuff. You know, Like,
yeah, it's one of those things that'd be hard to know. Like, what if he like we don't know whether maybe he didn't want to do it, or maybe he did get offered. Like, we don't know everything that goes on in the background and in the shadows of Hollywood. But yeah, I mean, I totally see what you're saying.
it's
It feels
strange.
like the direction's not even being taken to go down these potential routes.
Yeah,
And somebody had to at least kind of float these ideas.
yeah, I would hope.
If Guillermo del Toro came out like next week and said like like he had already stated privately that he didn't want to do it, or they offered it to him, but the deal fell apart somehow. I could at least live with I could live with that, just in the sense that the idea, like the concept, was breached by the people involved. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
fine. They realize the man has a propensity to work with this material, and so they approach him.
Mm-hmm.
But to just like to for whatever reason to never really bring his name up, I'm like
Yeah, it doesn't make
that's odd.
sense. Doesn't make
It
sense at
really
all.
doesn't.
But
Hey guys, I'm sorry to break up this holy trinity, but I gotta take off.
Yeah, I
I gotta go
figured
to this
out.
Christmas party.
Yeah, I was looking at the
Yes,
time.
you must answer the clarion call of the punch bowl
No, and the alcohols.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess then we can end here because I mean we're coming up on over 3 hours, so
yeah.
let's just we will cut it off here. But
yeah.
this I guess it's stuff to think about, for folks listening. Just like look at the directors you like, look at the movies they make, and think about who you see directing, films within franchises that you are passionate about, and are there better, directors, people that are better suited for this shit? You know what I mean? Is that why we're getting what we get?
And no, we did not contradict ourselves with our earlier comments. Guillermo del Toro also tends to write a lot of the things that he directs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Zack Snyder does not.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you don't like a director, see to what extent they were involved in the film that you don't like.
Exactly.
If all they did was direct, it means someone handed them a script, and all they did was try to put the script to action.
Exactly.
And if you have an issue with that director, it's because, hey, I couldn't see this particular thing, or lighting was crappy, or you have issues with the literal things on screen, like how it actually happened. If you have an issue with cast, with plot, with that's not him or her, as the case may be.
Yep.
That's not the director. The director's job is literally just to take the written word and turn it into moving pictures.
I agree.
So now that we've said that, I want to hear anybody go, well, you just said the director's not important, and then you said that they talk about directors who would be good for things.
I know it's true. It's sad that we have to preface these things, but it's true. It's very true. But with that being said, I guess that is it for us. You guys have been great, and we'll catch you on the next video.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Peace outside.
Later.
Peace.